Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin,
And I'm Kody.
and today we're going to tell you why F1 should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the first part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what is great about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Our discussion today is only on the positives, only about the stuff we love. No negatives, no outside drama, no Brad Pitt beating Angelina Jolie. We're not getting into that today. We're talking about the film F1. Let's get into it. Of course, F1 was nominated in Best Picture, Best Sound, Best VFX, and Best Editing. I wanted to talk about the cinematography, though, to really start things off and talk about this film. What makes this movie so impressive is all the technical aspects, all the camera angles, all the ways they're able to capture the actual Formula One races and, present them on screen. There's 16 different camera angles on the car that they're able to capture. They've got these like rotating remote 360 cameras. They're able to capture stuff in 4K, and they were able to like build all of this into the actual car bodies. It's truly impressive.
Yeah, it's actually unbelievable, the filmmaking process behind this movie and everything behind the scenes. And I think it's well deserved to get all of these nominations in the technical categories. And yeah, the cinematography for sure is one of the standouts. Like you said, putting the camera in the vehicle.
And I mean, the thing about F1 cars is they're barely built to hold a person. Like everything about them is so that they are as fast as possible, as streamlined as possible. The weight is just like you don't have room to put a backpack at your feet. You're the one person to put in there, and they were able to attach these cameras in a very particular way.
And I think along with that, kind of hand in hand, the visual effects, I think, is the biggest strength in this movie. The fact is, like, all of the cars that they're using for this are their own cars. They aren't, you don't just get access to F1 cars because you're making a movie. And it's a movie that it doesn't feel like it has that very many effect shots, just because it is used so seamlessly. But there's about 2,500 VFX shots in this movie, which is a lot. I don't think people realize how much actually behind the scenes stuff is in this. It's basically all of the race sequences, kind of are just straight visual effects. So I'm going to make a case right now of I think it's a clear winner for the
You
visual
take it
effects
over
Oscar.
Avatar.
Hell yeah, every day of the week. But yeah, I think obviously that along with the cinematography and then the sound as well, which it obviously was nominated for, like it takes you in that POV of the driver. You get to see kind of what's in front of them, how dangerous, how fast, how powerful these cars are. And Joseph Kaczynski obviously doing that with some of his past movies, Top Gun Maverick, and then just the visual style, the cinematography of Tron Legacy, I think, bleeds into this as well. So all of the visual elements I
Light
think
bikes.
are killer for this movie.
The VFX are really top notch. There are some scenes where it's like, man, I bet this has no VFX, and there's a ton. And there's some scenes where it's like, I bet this shit is all VFX. And it's like, no, they actually filmed this for real and they actually did race it. So it's that cool balance of like things that are seemingly fake are very real, and things that seem very real are very fake. And it's able to blend those. The crash sequences I think are really impressive. There's multiple in this film. The cool thing is that Apple TV, I'm not doing an ad right now, but like they do have bonus features on there. And I was able to watch a cool one of how they did the crash. They launched one of these built F1 cars fucking 100 feet in the air. And it was a cool thing of they were trying to get it, particularly in the Damson Idris crash when JP crashes and his thing gets lit on fire. They were trying to have it like crash through these Rolex signs and hit the fence, but they ended up launching it even further than they wanted it to. And they're like, fuck it, like let's use that in the movie. And then that becomes the VFX shot. And then they mix in real fire with actually, Damson Idris like getting out of the car, getting his arms lit on fire. Like it's a cool mix of practical effects and visual effects in a really awesome way.
I saw too they based the crashes off of like
Real
ones that happened
crashes.
in real life too. Yeah, so a ton of just research behind the scenes, making this as realistic as possible. And yeah, I think it just helps the cast as a whole kind of take on this project. But yeah, everything I thought was very impressive behind the scenes for sure.
It's working hand in hand with F1 to create something that is reality. I might have some issues with the way it presents like the rules and the depiction of the sport and like the culture in that way, but like the technology and how these cars work and how they would react to a crash and how the tires are like everything is very technical and planned out. And like you said, it's all based in the reality of like crashes that have happened prior and in how people, could potentially survive them. To me, the editing is another standout in this film. Really impressive stuff. All the graphics, obviously, it's an Apple film, as we mentioned, very Apple-esque, where it's like, okay, now we're gonna see the leaderboard of the cars. Okay, this is the position that the Apex team is in. The race track images that appear on the screen, the lap number, all of this is super clean, super within the aesthetic the F1 movie is trying to create, and that's all in the editing. Also, a lot of cross-cutting between multiple things. So you have two different drivers. You have the team that's there on the sidelines talking in the radio. You have the Tobias Menzies character who's up with like the board. There are a lot of different storylines that are intersecting at once while the race is happening. And they're also speeding up these races. Obviously, they're long, like 60 lap races that they're cutting down from. You see a couple important laps in the beginning, and then maybe you see the ending. It's all very intuitive in the way that it's telling the story. There's also a lot of cool moments where it like completely cuts out the sound. Talking about how this is such a film based in the sound editing of it, but there's moments where the sound entirely cuts out to power the emotion of the scene, whether it's the crash or the final, victory lap. The sound editing is all incredible.
I do love the sound for those specific moments too, of it going completely out during the crash sequence, and definitely, reminding and flashing back to his prior wreck as well. I think that was well done. And then, yeah, the ending too of, him just locked in and, him being one with the car, I think is one of my favorite moments for sure. And uses sound
He's
incredibly
flying,
well.
is what they say.
Literally, yeah. And then the editing too, yeah, I back that completely. Because this movie, I mean, it's like 2.5 hours at least. It doesn't feel that long, just because we are speed running
It's like
through.
2:37.
Yeah, it's a lot. It probably could have shaved off 15 at the end, but we won't mention it. But it gets you through a lot of races, though. Like, I think it's basically
A
the
full
entire
season.
back half of the season. Yeah, which is pretty impressive. And it doesn't feel that long. Like you said, I mean, it really does hone in on just like the key moments during each race. There are some technicalities with the rules and stuff that they break. And there doesn't seem to be much consequences, which is fun. But at the end too, when they're both kind of healthy and giving it their best go, like the double POV shot, I feel like was really engaging, because you really do care about both of the characters specifically in that final race as well. And the edit does a really good job of showing kind of both of them, and including the team, obviously throughout the race as well, which I thought was, yeah, just really really hard to do with all of the moving parts.
We mentioned there being 16 different angles of the car. It's like, okay, every race you have 16 angles of the car just that you could cut between. And the way that they're adding in the camera will rotate once and then it'll cut to the next. Like it is kind of a true artistry to the way that this is cut. It is watching something that is pretty magical in these montages. And there's even like the scene where it's like cross cutting between the crowd all doing the wave and then cutting into the car. And there's just a lot of fun like back and forth like that both sound and visuals that are matching the cuts.
Honestly, all the things that we've mentioned is 100% the reason why it was nominated for Best Picture.
Right. This is a pure technical movie.
Yeah, I think probably out of most people ranks things, this is going to be in a lot of people's back house, just because it's not the sort of Oscar baity movie that you would think would maybe go on and win it, or maybe even be nominated. But I think because of all of the technical achievements, this is 100% a movie that deserves to get noms. And in a year where, heck, there's not, there's a lot of good good noms that we'll get to. There's not an obvious winner. Why not give it to the best looking one? Why not give it to kind of the one that took a risk on a larger sports movie and did something crazy? So I think that this would be a fun pick for Best Picture.
And I got to shout out the casting as well, because I feel like Damson Idris, right at the center of this. Obviously, you've got Brad Pitt, stoic old Hollywood force at this point. Like our the vision of what is a modern movie star. Damson Idris, he was on an FX show for a couple seasons that I had never heard of. That was pretty much it, and he's basically cast out of nowhere. And I think this guy's a big star. Playing the young version. Obviously, you get like Callie Cook. She's Jody, which is like the mechanic that has the relationship with him. Tobias Menzies, Sarah Niles, who plays JP's mom. She's from Ted Lasso. Abdul Salas, who's the other car guy with the gray hair, and then like Carrie Condon, of course, who I think is given not a lot to do in this film and is kind of given this tough role of, you know, female love interest in a movie that's really uninterested in its female characters. But I think she's really incredible. And, you know, one of the great supporting actresses of the year.
I love Carrie Condon. I love that they just let her do her accent as well. Go full Irish. Just top tier accent there. But yeah, I do think that her relationship with Brad Pitt was interesting, more so of them working together. I did like with her character of how they focused on, she was kind of the first, or she was, working to become the first female, on the team who won a race, which was a massive achievement, obviously, on that side of things. But yeah, her relationship with Brad Pitt was interesting. I do 100% agree. The standout for me is the supporting actor in Damson Idris. Is it Damson? Is that correct? Who
Yeah.
knows? We will know soon because this guy's awesome. Like you said, he used
Potentially the next Black Panther people want to have him, you
that's
know,
great.
T'Challa's son.
It's great casting, I think. But yeah, not really been in a ton. He was in a Black Mirror episode that I do like in general, but other than that, I mean, movie wise, he really hasn't been in anything. I thought he was absolutely amazing in this. Kind of big time breakout role. He just got like the charisma, I feel like, for what you would want for this role. This up and coming driver who is very young, has that potential, but obviously just like unproven and cocky, but still knows like he has a long way to go. And just kind of him and Brad's relationship throughout the movie, starting off with, just no respect, but it does blossom over time to where they do have that mutual respect and they actually start working together. Versus at the beginning, it's for sure they're against each other. Obviously, you can tell in that first race, but I really thought that he just brought the chops along with Brad. It was a tough category to sneak in this year. I mean, supporting actor is absolutely just stacked. So I'm not surprised he didn't get a nom, but I would have liked to seen him sneak in. I think that would have been a really deserving nomination. But heck, man, yeah, give me a lot more of Mr. Idris. For some reason, just with Idris, I think he's like related to Idris Elba or something. Just because I feel like he reminds me of how good of an actor Idris is. But obviously, I don't think any relation. But I love this kid. I think he's awesome.
Last name, first name, yeah. Probably not related.
Close enough. Close enough.
Damson Idris Elba. Apparently he is in Gina Prince Bythewood's next movie that isn't coming out until 2027, but that is exciting. Fun cast with Idris Elba as well as included.
Oh wow.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, Cynthia Erivo,
Oh
Viola
wow.
Davis, Regina King.
It's a really good cast.
And Damson. So he'll be there. So excited to see that fantasy novel adaptation. But that scene where it's him, Carrie Condon, and Brad Pitt playing poker together, like that to me,
Yes.
one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
So good.
Him standing up to two incredible actors, and even Karen Condon, again, like somebody who's not given a ton to do in this movie, able to really like leave her mark on the film in a really interesting way.
I think I agree that might be my favorite scene in the movie, which is crazy. Obviously, talking about all the visual spectacle that you get. And also, I mean, shout out a little bit to Javier Bardem. He is
Yeah.
kind of just there, but I do really love just like the specific shot too. It's like become a iconic like GIF. I feel like almost in a sense of the background, or excuse me, the fireworks going off in the backgrounds, and
Not the
Javier.
greatest looking fireworks, but
I think it looks dope. But Javier kind of going through and shaking everybody's hand and celebrating. I thought that just moment of jubilation from him was pretty solid. But other than that, him and Brad are decent. I think the acting altogether, like there's no bad acting. But Damson was definitely the standout. I didn't think anybody other than him really was like, oh wow. Carrie Condon's accent, but like we said, just wasn't given enough to do.
and maybe we'll get Javier Bardem up on the stage, shaking hands, fireworks behind him when F1 wins Best Picture.
Heard it here first.
Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Train Dreams should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the second part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today, we are only talking about what we love about the actual movie. No outside drama, no negatives. And of course, Train Dreams was nominated for Best Picture, Screenplay, Original Song, and Cinematography. And I think we got to start there, Kody, with the cinematography, because to me, that's the thing about this movie that I find so impressive. It is a visually incredible movie, and I think it's shot in a very interesting way.
I 100% agree. I think this category is the strongest case for Best Picture for Train Dreams. I think it's the reason it was nominated for Best Picture. It is absolutely visually stunning. It really does just take you into the wilderness, which I don't know if any other movie that was nominated does it like this. And also just a great era of time to have kind of a movie like this and then film it, like you said, kind of in this way. Just that combination is absolutely unbelievable.
A movie that is like on the western edge of American civilization, as like these loggers are exploring, semi new territory, and as change is occurring in our country, change happens to this man, and it all becomes, very thematically relevant. And the way it's shot, I think, is so particular and unique. Specifically, the cinematographer talked about wanting to emulate the look of old time photographs. So, like these images that you see of the time period of loggers, and trying to capture that and put that on screen. And I think it's done very well. Noticeably, it's a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is like very unique for movies to be shot, with that framing.
Very fun to see it just in, shot like that. And like you said too, I mean, just the uniqueness of it, it does play into the story elements as well of they do a really interesting thing when they look into the main character's dreams, having dream sequences, but also still keeping it in this
The
format.
titular train dreams, Kody.
Of course, roll
It's
credits.
the titular character.
But I just love that the way that it uses it for the story. Like you said, it is following kind of this one character's journey, but at the same time, it's also just about kind of the wilderness as a whole. It's about kind of everything around him at the same time, as well as this, very very sad story. So it's hard to describe. I think the way this movie looks, you just have to watch it, and once you do, I feel like you understand why it's so great.
It is truly wholly unique. This premiered at Sundance all the way back in the beginning of 2025. So it's like this movie has existed in the consciousness for over, 14, 15 months now as we get to the Oscar season. Netflix bought it up out of there. It is kind of, I feel like, a really unfortunate thing that Netflix has this movie, because it's not really a movie that I feel like plays well on a screen, on a laptop, on your phone. And I actually got the chance to see this movie on a 35 millimeter print at the Chicago Film Festival at the Music Box Theater. So I probably had the most optimal viewing experience, even though this is a digitally shot movie and plays with a lot of things. Seeing it on the celluloid projection, the way the natural light, the fires, the candles, it really just looks incredible.
I am jealous of that experience. Like you said, unfortunately, it's through Netflix, so I did watch it at home with the rest of America mostly. But yeah, it is one I feel like it would just be elevated as well if it was on the big screen. So, like you said, a little bit unfortunate. That is kind of where it came from. But yeah, I don't think it hinders it. The other things I love about this movie too, just throwing out a lot more good, because I feel like people will harp on the cinematography. But for me personally, I think this is one of the more underrated movies of the year just because of the cast and the overall script too. But I was gonna say right off the bat, I don't understand why Joel Edgerton has not gotten more love for this movie and for this
He
performance.
did win the acting award at the Chicago Film Festival. He was presented a
Oh,
big
okay.
award. And he was there. I got to see him in person,
Oh, shout out.
talk before and after this movie. So
I was like, okay, he did get some recognition at the very least, which I'd love to see.
the people of Chicago know. The rest of the country, the rest of the world, I don't know. We're not showing out for Joel in this.
Chi-Town's got Joel's back. Everybody else, we're not too sure, but I think he is just really good in this. Obviously, too, he is the main core of it. Without this movie, I mean, without him in this movie, it is just completely different. The great thing about this movie too is just its use of emotion, and that's definitely more of kind of where the script comes in. Obviously, this was adapted from a book, so they didn't have good material to go off
Dennis
of.
Johnson's novella, I would say, is it's a
Yeah,
small story.
good correction. Shout out novellas. But yeah, I mean, the good thing about this movie too, and it kind of plays into that a little bit of it being a novella, but the script's not too wordy. Like it really does a good job of letting you sit in these moments with the cinematography. And then also at the same time, I mean, once you get deeper into the movie, some very emotional and sad stuff happens. So at that point, it really just lets you kind of sit in the grief with a lot of scenes going on with Edgerton, him trying to find himself after kind of a massive life event like this. So I think that combination as well, and then just Edgerton, like I haven't seen him do anything this dramatic really. I think he's great in Warrior, which is a fun sports movie. He's in other stuff like The Gift and Zero Dark 30, which is more dramatic work. but at the same time, like emotional dramatic work, I feel like is very, very different from a lot of the stuff that he's done. So to kind of show that he has these chops and he's in such a large role, I was just very impressed.
We do, of course, love him as Owen, Uncle Owen in Star Wars,
True.
which is his most iconic role. But the thing about him is he is believable as a like a lumberman, as a guy who's actually out here, cutting down trees. He's got these real gruff hands, the calluses, the beard, like in a way that is impressive. He is both kind of a little bit of a movie star, but also kind of like a regular gruff kind of guy, like a real working class individual. He doesn't have that, like Hollywood stink to him or anything where you could believe him as just the ordinary guy. And that's what this story is about. It's very, Terrence Malick inspired, kind of just following the life of this person. But there isn't necessarily anything inherently special about him. He is one of many people who built this country. Not getting into negatives. I up against some of it's just a story about some white guy who was a logger in the Pacific West, and it kind of pushes some of the characters aside. But it is amazing the emotion it's able to create of just like an ordinary life that when you get to the end of the movie, you kind of just like overcome with the multitude and the magnitude of just like what humans are capable of every emotion that you're able to experience. So it is impressive what it's able to achieve, and it's 100-minute runtime.
That's a good point too, because like this movie, it does have touches of larger thematic themes. It does deal with racial discrimination a little bit, even just like environmental morality, kind of for this period of time, which I
Yeah,
think is interesting. Um,
and the changing of times as technology affects, and the way that you're swept up, either you adapt or you die. And William H. Macy, the character guy we have not talked about at all, I think his character is very interesting in this. And again, you followed Edgerton throughout at every stage of his life in this film, from beginning to seemingly end.
Literally, yeah, which I think is a fun way just for the story to structure. And yeah, I want to shout out the supporting nom as well. I think Felicity Jones is very, very good. Again, really plays into that
She's back
emotional.
with doing her role from The Brutalist of the wife.
True. That is true. And it's actually a really good comparison because she has limited screen time in both. Um, although she has much more better of an ending, I think, in The Brutalist, clearly.
Yeah, she gets her scene in The Brutalist. This one, she doesn't
Not so
quite get her
much.
chance to shine. Yeah.
Yeah, but William H. Macy, I thought too, was just a life of positivity, kind of in the movie. Had a fun time. His performance, I think he's always going to be good, but he can just bring like that quirkiness that can kind of bounce off Edgerton. More of the kind of stale personality. So I thought their dynamic was a lot of fun and just a fresh change up from the rest of the movie.
And again, just another guy who's like, this is a real person who's like
Yeah,
worked and lived through shit and seen stuff. And of course, Carrie Condon popping up at the end. Shout out to
true.
our first episode, F1. Another just fun kind of supporting performance, doing a great accent.
Always. Yeah, I forgot
Looking
about her. Yeah.
beautiful.
She's in two movies that are known for Best Picture. I mean, not a lot of people can say that this year.
Big
So
year.
shout out Carrie.
The total aesthetic of this, obviously, a lot of it is shot like actually outside, but that is still production design. They're finding these locations, they're building them out. All of these forests are really incredible. The image and the thing that they create in this that I think is stuck with me the most since I first saw this movie is the shoes nailed into the tree, and that progression of like seeing them, grown into the tree. And I don't even think that was like a specific like thing from the novel or the loggers, but it's just like it's something that was to happen, that did happen in real life, and they wanted to bring into this movie. And I think it's such a cool image, and matches so much what this movie is trying to do thematically.
I completely agree. I think that is probably my favorite shot of the movie as well, or at least the favorite my favorite carryover kind of thematically from each scene. So that one, there's a lot of emotional like gut punches in this movie, I feel like, which for me, there are other films that we'll talk about that are emotional, but this is up there, I think, for my favorite of the year in that category. I think it does that super effectively and has the editing, the cinematography, like it has fun too. Like I was saying with those dream sequences, I think those really add a cool, just different element to this movie that I really did not expect at all coming in. It allows the director specifically to just be super creative, kind of just do crazy crap for a while, which in a very serious and slow moving movie, like this, I think just adds a fun element. So I think on all cylinders, this movie is pretty underrated. I think that editing specifically for those aspects is a lot of fun.
When it's written and told in a very interesting way where it kind of shifts through time, non-linearly, jumping back and forth. You'll see a moment of him as an older man reflecting on something from the childhood, or maybe, after his wife and child unfortunately die in this fire, you see flashbacks to them living together. And, some of that is literally in his dreams and some of it's more in visions, but all of it is kind of told in a very interesting way. And I think I actually really came to appreciate the structure the most, I think, on my second watch of this film, of the way it kind of, fits together this narrative, and hits you with that gut punch, halfway through.
I echo that again, especially the uniqueness of that, like having that interesting story structure along with just the breathtaking cinematography. It really is just bringing together a lot of elements that I feel like we don't see together. Unfortunately, they are all packed into a Netflix film, so um, you can say a lot about this movie, but I think for that alone too, I think that's a little bit of the reason it's not getting kind of its recognition, a
Right.
little bit that it
Well,
deserves.
it's like Netflix was able to put enough money behind it, so it did get the nominations and it was put out there. But at the same time, it's like so many people. I've seen reviews of people being like, the cinematography, this looks bad, it's tough, and it's like when you watch it on a screen and you've got that Netflix compression, and a lot of it is a very dark movie. I can understand why you might think some of this is poorly executed, but that's more of just like the format you're viewing it in. Also, like, something that is unique about the cinematography in this, it's again shot digitally with RE cameras, a lot of it handheld, the camera moving around, but it's also using a very fast shutter speed. So that's, something within the exposure triangle. You have ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, all the things determining how much light is in the screen. But what shutter speed also does beyond the light in the image, it affects the motion blur. So when you have like a really slow shutter speed, that's where those scenes of like the transcendent, like, blurry scenes. But this movie is super fast, so everything is so crisp. It feels like it's jittery and almost unnatural. So it takes a second to get used to, but that's all part of the overall aesthetic of creating this like old timey, hyper real, you know, lived in thing that like transports you there. And I really appreciate it, especially getting to see it in the theater.
Like I said, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have criticisms about this movie are probably just like watching it on their laptop, at lunch. So
Yeah.
it's hard to,
And the
visualize.
whole movie is just Joel Edgerton,
Yeah,
moaning for a lot of it. So it's hard to tap into. I get
it's
that.
it's basic plot. If you're watching it from 100 feet away, but I wish that was not the way it was just presented to us, which is unfortunate.
Very little time left here, but I just want to shout out the score. It's very simple, very melancholic, but the way it especially swells in that final moment. Shout out to this movie and Mission Impossible for the year 2025 having great climactic yellow plane sequences, but just seeing everything just boom culminate, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think the ending with the plane sequence, along with the score, like you mentioned, is very poetic and like you said, just perfect timing, kind of from the score perspective as well. So completely back it.
Let's give Train Dreams Best Picture. Why not?
Got my vote.
Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're talking to you about why Frankenstein should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the third part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today, we're only talking about what we love about the movie. No drama, no negatives, purely the things that make Frankenstein great. Let's get into it. Of course, it was Best Picture nominated, but it was also Best Sound, Best Score, Best Makeup, Best Costume, Best Production Design, Best Cinematography, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Jacob Elordi. So this is a heavily nominated film, of course. And to me, it's clear in those nominations, and it's clear when watching the film. I think it is the technical things that I find most impressive about this movie. There are a lot of interesting story choices that Guillermo del Toro makes, of course. But to me, it's like the makeup and hairstyling, the costume, the production design. That's where this movie really shines. Maybe we could start with some costume design thoughts. To me, like Mia Goth's dresses, she's fitted out. every scene of this, and the colors look incredible. And then of course, around that you get a lot of nice, good old timey suits from Christoph Waltz, Oscar Isaac. They're always looking good. But Mia Goth, incredible dresses.
Yeah, I absolutely back that. The technicals, I agree, are really the standout for this flick. And the costumes are great. Like you said, Mia Goth, always rocking a badass dress. I feel like in a movie like this.
She's a person that fits the time period. You're like,
Oh,
this is believable
she's
that she
perfect.
existed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's immaculate casting in most things, but especially in a period drama like this, I don't think you can really go wrong with Mia Goth. But I want to say
Dual
the
casting as well in this film. We
true,
do have to shout out. It's another twin performance. Of course, not on the screen at the same time, but
right?
pivotal. Mary
Still
Shelley
fun though.
wasn't writing that. That was all Guillermo.
Guillermo knows all about those dual roles, but
And all about Sigmund Freud's theories.
he's a fan. But I want to say the makeup for Elordi as well.
10 hours in the chair, I believe,
Crazy.
is the time.
That commitment alone is impressive. But I think it does look really good as well. And it's definitely a different look than we've seen from other Frankenstein iterations.
Of course, the bride is coming out.
Right.
And I saw Christian Bale on the red carpet getting talked to, and somebody said that I think like Frankenstein's been played over 400 times and we've seen all these iterations. So like this movie, I do think does do something new with the character, especially in the design.
And evidently it's like a lot more faithful to like the Mary Shelley book as well, which I feel like in that description of the monster, it is more of like unique, but he's got this beauty to him at the same time. So like we are saying, I mean, like Frankenstein, I feel like is not at all portrayed like that in other films. So it's cool to see that. And then the makeup along with it is just, I mean, it's stellar. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it is really just incredible. The kind of texture of, all of these different body parts being brung together into this new person. But it really does just look amazing, I think. And then along with that, like the designs for the sets as well look sick. I mean, this tower that they're working in, they got these big ass, lightning things coming in. All of Oscar Isaac's like technical, medical gear, I think just looks really practical and really good. So yeah, I mean Guillermo, from a technical standpoint, is always going to be stellar, but I think this is definitely one of his better achievements on that side of things.
I think every room, every building that this movie puts you in is like incredibly designed. Specifically, his lab that Waltz provides him is such a cool location, incredible tower, the way that window looks. Obviously, I think that was like the main promotional image that was shown for a lot of time of this movie of it. The big bulbs, like the giant, green and red light up things that of course like provide all the power. And those I feel like are the most like classically Frankenstein things where you got to have some big electrical things on the sides that are lighting up and causing some fun colors. I think it is a little bit of a detriment of this film, the VFX extensions and the digital sky replacements that it does, primarily because the production design is so incredible. The costumes are so incredible. It is amazing the things they build. And then it's a little bit unfortunate that it's like they add all this extensions that don't really match up with that. But I almost think it highlights how much better the actual production design is and the actual like physical makeup they're putting on Jacob Elordi. It is a truly transformative performance. I like the hair that they give him. It's a cool kind of like mix of the different colors. And it's like the fact that this is truly anatomically like different people put together to create this new being. You see the slits in the body. And I do think that is a fun, accurate take on what I think Mary Shelley was picturing.
And I think it's a deserved nomination, even in a pretty stacked year for that category. Obviously, Elordi's first, which is pretty cool for him. I think he's kind of just okay. If I was handing out noms, I probably wouldn't have given it to him, to be fair.
I agree. It's not like one of my favorite supporting performances of the year. I appreciated it more on second watch.
It's a good
It is
performance,
one of those things where it's like
sure.
he doesn't talk a lot, it's very actorly. He's silently gesticulating around. Maybe he was stuck a little bit in Frankenstein mode for Wuthering Heights, unfortunately. But I will say, like, when you look at everything he's done before this, I don't know I would have expected this out of him. Like, I do think it is a new leap in a different direction. And also, the original plan was Andrew Garfield to be in this movie. I think that might have been disastrous.
I feel like you would have gotten buff for it though, so that would have been fun. But I would definitely take Garfield if I'm being honest. But Elordi's good.
I mean, there is something about Elordi just purely as a physical presence. The
Yeah.
dude's like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
And yes, he's got muscle. Like it's just the juxtaposition of him next to Oscar Isaac or him next to Mia Goth, the difference in sizes. Like you just can't even fake that. That's just naturally who the way, good genes, those Australian genes he's got.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think just his height compared to Andrew Garfield, it would just change the performance completely, just with his size. But yeah, I think he's great. I think the cast as a whole too is actually like low-key really, really good. Obviously with Elordi and Oscar Isaac, I mean Oscar Isaac's awesome. And then, supporting Christoph Waltz is randomly in it for a little bit.
Oscar Isaac's going very big. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean he's working the accent for sure, and he's working it hard. But he has so much dialogue and just narration. Yeah, like a ton of narration. So I feel like he had to do something with his voice to try to keep it interesting through all of that, and maybe that lost focus a little bit. But he's okay. And then Christoph Waltz, yeah, Mia Goth, I love. Charles Dance is barely in it, and that guy rocks. Shout out Charles Dance. But then also you have this. I don't know how to say his name, Felix Kammerer, who is the main guy from All Quiet on the Western Front, which is in a phenomenal movie. And I think that dude should be working.
Oh, is that the brother?
Yeah. Yeah. That is weird that he's going after his brother's fiance to be.
And yeah, that is a Guillermo change. There is an interesting thing of the woman that he's in love with is like a childhood sweetheart of his. They don't really have that in this adaptation. And there's also a lot more of like Frankenstein is a little bit more malevolent in the novel. He is a monster. He does like do more violent things. He kills the Mia Goth character on the night of their wedding. Like specific, like he kills him rather than Oscar Isaac shooting him. So these are changes that are made to the story.
Yeah, because it is more like
he's got his vision.
Elordi is, I feel like his character for sure is the hero of the story, even with the conclusion, with the ice ship, and he helps them along the way. But he's kind of just like this misunderstood monster where people don't know what he is, so they start hunting him. But I don't know if he ever does any.
Guillermo loves his monsters.
True, but he never does like any harm for no reason, I feel like, in this movie, which I feel like is an argument for the monster. I do really like his character development too. Of obviously he's not a big part of the first, whatever 45 to hour of the movie, and then it cuts to his side of the story, which I really love that. Just writing dynamic too.
Shout out to Mary Shelley.
Yeah, true. Shout out Mary. They really get to focus in on Oscar Isaac, and maybe almost too much to a fault. But once we get to the Elordi stuff halfway through, I think that's when the movie really kicks in. Again, it's kind of a long movie too. I think, over 2.5 hours. So got a lot of stuff to fill, but I feel like once, Frankenstein's story actually began, the movie moved a lot faster. Like his relationship with the old blind guy and him helping out that family.
That's my favorite stuff in the movie. And that's
so good. Yeah.
Straight from Frankenstein. Is he from the novel, obviously, it's changed a little bit where they're like teaching a foreigner how to learn, how to read and all that stuff, and he learns the language through that. But just this relationship with the blind guy and having, like he can't see him, so he can't see the grotesque monster that he is. That's regular people are so terrified and will shun him. And yeah, when he's hanging out with the rats and in the in the side room, it's brilliant stuff.
Thought it was a Ratatouille sequel for a second. But yeah, I think just like the beginning, it's more focused on Christoph Waltz and the politics of, Oscar Isaac trying to reanimate bodies and stuff like that. I feel like if we got the Elordi stuff sooner and just focused more on his character.
It's a critique of Victor Frankenstein where it's like, do you really need, you're telling this story. Do you need to give me all these details? You're really straight incredulity where it's like, come on, I don't know if I need to hear about how your dad abused you. I guess it is important, but are you really going to tell the ship captain that?
I think the ship captain was very intrigued. So I think he wanted to hear it.
You know who that is? That's Mads Mikkelsen's brother, Lars Mikkelsen.
I did not know that. Shout out Lars, man. Tell you what, acting runs in the family. But does Mads have a cameo sometime and I missed it? Hopefully.
Unfortunately not, but maybe he'll be in the sequel.
I'm here for it. But I mean, yeah, with Guillermo as a whole, I feel like he's the Academy's darling on a lot of
True. This
things.
was like almost a guarantee. We did all the way back in our Oscar predictions. I think we both were
Yeah.
like, we're probably underestimating this movie, and it came through. It got a ton of nominations.
Yeah, I was gonna say it got a crap ton of noms. So I mean, its argument for Best Picture, I think, is pretty straightforward with the nominations behind it. But I don't know what category I guess do you think it has the best shots in? Obviously, I think makeup and costumes. I think it has a good
I
shot.
could see it winning. The thing is, it has won a lot of these kind of technical precursors with makeup, production, and costume. I don't think it'll take costume, but I could see production or makeup very easily being a win for this movie.
I feel like with the makeup, they do like to give it to more of like the prosthetic
Yeah,
type of makeup. So I think that would
and
be a
there, I
really
don't know.
good
I don't
fit.
think there's a fat suit, so
No, Christoph Waltz. I mean, he has like the cancer thing going on, so he's got kind of like a bald
the
cap.
syphilis, Kody,
Oh, right.
syphilis.
Sorry. It's the what year is this? I don't know, 1600s. A
The
little bit different.
French
That
disease.
damn syphilis, but I think it has a shot, a good shot in makeup. I don't know about supporting actor, even though it's a really fun nom. But all the technicals, I think it does have a shot. Pretty much all of them, really.
Yeah, I think production design in makeup,
Those
costume maybe goes
dresses,
to
man.
Sinners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of good noms, but Mia Goth, what is she? She's in a red dress. She's in a green dress.
makeup is
Um,
interesting because it's Frankenstein, Kukuho, Sinners, Smashing Machine, Ugly Stepsister.
okay, Smashing Machine also has the prosthetic, so that'll be a good battle. But I feel like this would beat out in that. Sinners, I think, is the other clear competition, but it's a toss up. It's a tough one to call, I think, in that category.
I think this movie is all about the technicals. Story stuff, I do struggle with a little bit, but um, they did a good job, pulling in the cast. I think Elordi, again, it was kind of a late minute ad. It was supposed to be Andrew Garfield for a really long time, and then he wasn't able to do it for whatever. I think he was off getting a hair transplant or something in Turkey. And then so you bring in Jacob Elordi, and and it works out, pretty impeccably well. So Frankenstein should win Best Picture, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
I guess, if it has to.
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to win. Oh, Oscar Isaac's hair also, pretty flowing.
Pretty luscious. You think that's a wig? I would guess so. I don't think you can grow
He's got
that.
the curls. I believe in him. It's a very distinct. It's like very wild.
Also, I think if Oscar just drops the accent, it is like a much, much better performance. But you like have to fit the time period and stuff. I don't know. I think he's like good, but it's just like something about it, the way he talks, just throws me off.
Well, he is the monster, Kody. I don't know if you know that, but he's the
He
real
definitely
monster.
is the monster. No debate about that.
When he's doing his like early science experiments, the stuff coming alive, so cool. Really well done.
Yeah, I feel like that's that kind of the opening scene of him presenting in front of these judges or whatever in the big crowd. I think that's maybe the best scene of Oscar Isaac stuff. So after that, it's a bit of a slog. Good opening. Scary stuff.
I miss Pinocchio, man.
Nobody's ever said that.
Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Bugonia should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the fourth part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today we are only talking about what we love about this movie, none of the outside drama, none of the negative stuff, purely the good. Let's get into it. Of course, Bugonia was nominated for Picture, Actress, Adapted Screenplay, and Score. Kody, I know when you first watched this movie, this wasn't one for you that you were like, oh, this is one of my favorites. But for me, this is truly one of my 10 favorite movies of the year. Like, I think it is one of the 10 best movies of the year.
I do think it's still solid altogether. I think the part of it for me too is like it's a Yorgos movie, so I come in with very high expectations just because I think Yorgos really hasn't made a bad movie that I've seen at least.
And a lot of just really great movies too.
Oh
Not
yeah,
even not bad movies, just like incredibly
excellent.
technically well written and wholly unique every single time.
I echo that completely. It's just like every category that you would want a movie to be great in. The technicals, the crazy plots, crazy performances, like all of his movies, I think, never miss on those core elements. And I don't think this movie does either. I do still like this movie a lot, especially on a rewatch. with subtitles, to be honest. It does improve the movie for me a lot. But yeah, I mean, comparing it to his other films, I think it's probably in the middle tier for me, and kind of similar for the year altogether. But I think like its strengths are very, very strong. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts on all the technicals. But I want to say off the bat too, I think it's a fun nomination for adapted screenplay, just because I didn't realize that it was adapted from a South Korean film called Save the Green Planet. So it's basically like an international remake, a la like The Departed, The Ring. Like add it to the good American remakes to that category because I feel like there aren't a ton. Yeah, I thought it was going to be original screenplay, honestly.
It takes the same central idea from that film, Save the Green Planet, about these, kind of crazy conspiracy theorists capturing a person because they think they're an alien, and then, running all these tests on them. And I believe it has the same ending. I honestly haven't seen the movie, but the thing is, this movie feels super relevant to now and feels important today. And it feels like it could be something that's original, and feels just like something, because of who Yorgos is and his identity, matches perfectly with the history and the types of films we've seen from him. So while it is an adaptation, it's an adaptation that totally makes sense for Yorgos to do, and he puts his flair on it. He puts his spin on it. The bee stuff I think is super interesting as a symbol and just as a opening and closing for this film. All of the design elements of this film are really interesting. The last time we talked about this, we didn't really get to get into the spoiler territory of it, but I love the final sequence when everything goes fully off the wall and we're in the sci-fi alien world. It feels just like some of that intense, fantastical production design that we saw in Poor Things. And it's such a fun little take on these aliens. It's minimal, but I love it so much. And then even the stuff before that, I know you like the creepy house that she gets taken to as well.
Yeah, I think all the production design elements as well are fantastic. Like you said, the rickety old house, it feels so lived in, just so realistic. Kind of this family house that's been passed on from their mother and just been in the family for so long. And them just being out in the middle of nowhere too in the country. I think just the aesthetic with the vibes of the house is really great. Also, I want to shout out just the design of Emma Stone's office. Kind of just like super modern. I love her office as well, specifically.
Windows.
Yeah, where also too it has like it's like the half see-through door, which just makes it even a more interesting and more tension-filled dynamic. But like you said, I mean, all of the technicals knock it out. I think that's the thing. What I love about this movie too is like how quickly it gets into the plot. You mentioned obviously, I mean, it's a kidnapping thriller, but also, I mean, it has this sci-fi element twist that I really love, and especially on a rewatch, like you were saying. You really do get more of that dialogue between Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. Because on the first watch, I kind of thought he was a kook. Like, I don't know if I bought anything out of his mouth.
And I mean, like to a certain extent, he is.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%, which makes his character, very interesting, even though, we find out, he may have been right on a lot of this stuff. But I thought all of their direct scenes, like just that one-on-one acting, you can put that in any film class. Like those are two primetime performers. Plemons and Plemons has a ponytail, so you can't go wrong. And Emma Stone shaves her head, so it's just like two massive forces battling each other, and I really enjoyed watching them work together.
A makeup and hairstyling not alone for the greasy Plemons long hair and the completely shaved head of Emma Stone, which is real, of course. She's not wearing a bald cap. They filmed it and she got the buzz cut. And she rocks it. But like you said, those two lead actors perfectly know how to play in Yorgos's little toy land, and they are going head to head in a way that is truly impressive. This dialogue, like you said, is dense. It's tough. Sometimes it's completely off the wall. You can't even understand what he's saying the first time around. But in going back, like it is such a interestingly written script, and these two nailed the dialogue and nailed the performances. Jesse Plemons is like a crazy person, but also a heartbreaking, sympathetic character. And then, of course, you have this Aiden Delbus character who's playing his cousin, right, Donnie, and that's a heartbreaking relationship they have there. And Emma Stone, it's like you feel for her for so much of this movie, but then also there's this balance between the icy reality of her being a fucking alien and being this like sympathetic kidnapping victim. there's so many interesting dynamics that all three of these actors, and particularly the two leads, Plemons and Stone, are playing with. Obviously, Emma Stone got the nomination. Plemons easily is number 6. Like, he's the first person voted off. It's such a tough year. That's a good 5. I'd take out Chalamet, maybe. Put
Oh
in
wow,
Plemons.
Timmy's coming out. It is just a really stacked year in that category. Like you said, I think the 6 of them all probably equally deserve, but somebody's got to get left out. So it is tough to see. I'm happy that Stone got the nom, and yeah, shout out to Aiden Delbus. I thought that he was a really good just supporting character. You know, you kind of have the audience see through his eyes as well because he is kind of the most relatable, I would say, or at least the best
For sure.
person. So I thought his performance was just superhuman and kind of kept that grounded level even when it on, went on to those sci-fi twists and stuff.
It's a good story decision because this is the first time he's really been on one of these kidnappings. He's unaware. He is the audience surrogate, like you said. And he is just so innocent. Really, really unfortunate what happens to his character. This is a kind of a
Yeah.
unfortunate movie for everyone. The entire fucking civilization, all of humanity dies at the end of it. And yet would say it's my favorite movie ending of the year because there's just
Wow.
like this beauty as you see the world reset with all the humans gone and nature begin to return. And then it's also this just like fun series of tableaus of just like everyday human life. It's like the what Train Dreams is trying to capture, like the beauty in the ordinary and like how ordinary people are amazing, and like it does that in the final 5 minutes of this film, just like so specifically of like, here's people on the freeway, here's people at a cookout, here's just all these uniquely human moments, people in love, people getting ready for their day.
A lot of wrecks, unfortunately, too. But yeah, I think it is a very interesting ending, and just tying in the ending with the title too, which I didn't know what Bugonia meant until a few minutes ago, to be completely honest. So to inform everybody who's not aware, bees could be spontaneously generated from the carcass of sacrificed cow, basically. But it more symbolizes like it's a metaphor for new life or opportunity from like corruption or destruction. That's the definition. Shout out to Google, but I
And
do
it's a
think
sick word.
yeah, it is a sick word. I thought it was like a planet or something like that. But it really does help symbolize, especially when you have the ending with the title of kind of that rebirth and, overall themes about, the planet and, humans' destruction to it. So I thought all that kind of big picture stuff was good. Maybe it dragged on a little bit, showing like, 100 people die over 10
Where have
minutes.
all the flowers gone?
It's a good song.
Oh,
And I want to shout out too. I mean, we haven't talked about the score yet, which
oh
I
yeah.
think maybe
Jerskin
this
Fendrix.
maybe this is the category it has the best chance to win, honestly, because it is a powerful score. And it really does a great job of just like showing the tension in these scenes, especially through the two main characters. The song choices are great too, I think. You got a little Green Day in there, you got a little Chappelle Roan, Chapel Roan, whatever. I mean, all bangers, all absolute bangers. So I think the score deserves maybe the most credit for its case to win Best Picture.
90-piece orchestra, Kody. They brought the fucking
Oh, it sounds like
the
it too.
brass, the strings. It is powerful and it is loud and overpowering. This was such a fun movie to see in the theater because of that. I was listening to the score earlier today. Jerskin Fendrix didn't even watch the movie or get to see any of it before he composed it. He was just given a series of words, bees and space. Just what do you create when you think of that, and then it's applied to this movie and cut together, and it fits so well. I think of that sequence and that song, that dun 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 dun, dun, when it's Plemons on the bicycle riding down the street. Fucking incredible, transcendent stuff. The music is really great, and um wise choice from Yorgos. And that's, I think, the power of his direction. He'll do the crazy shit like that where it's like, I'm not gonna let you see this movie, but I can trust you to create something that will be in the end harmonious. I love all the flashback sequences and the way those are put together, and the choice of black and white when representing Alicia Silverstone going through these early trials. She's obviously the character of Teddy's mother. I love some of the cinematography as well and the framing. This was shot on VistaVision. There's so many cool like sequences of Emma Stone just walking into the office building, becoming the queen bee, the girl boss. Everything that Yorgos does behind the camera and with his cinematographers is top tier in this movie. The colors are just so rich and beautiful as well. It's compared to all the other nominees. It's it's such a beautiful movie, and it's so simple.
The cinematography, I think, is a massive standout as well. Like we're saying, literally every technical, I think you can make a pretty good argument for. And along with the score, like that pairing is is pretty awesome. Like you said, the bike riding scene, I think, is one of my favorites on both watches. Kind of the first time with you almost being like, "Oh crap!" Like the cops found him. Kind of like that little moment, which is fun. But also on the second watch, like just the power of that score and just the POV shot of him riding the bike hits a little bit different, I feel like. So, like you said too, I mean, on a second watch, you do get more of Plemons, hatred for what happened kind of with his mother and obviously who he blames for that. So I think you do sympathize with the character a bit more. And also too, I don't think on either watch I realized that that was Alicia Silverstone. That's a letterbox after the fact. Like, oh wow, I didn't even recognize them. So shout out to her for just being very committed and going for a role that I feel like she normally doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it is almost blink and you miss it. But if we're gonna give a cameo Oscar out, we'll give it to her for that.
There you go.
The dialogue and especially the delivery from Jessica Clemens, it is so fast, it is almost poetic. Welcome to the headquarters of the human resistance. Despite our general suspicion and disavowal of all extant governing bodies, and despite the fact that you, as an Andromedan, are not subject to the human rights guidelines detailed at the Geneva Conventions, we nevertheless endeavor to adhere to those guidelines out of the humanist principles to which they aspire. Like shit like that he's just throwing back and forth, just fastballs at each other constantly through this whole movie, going head to head. It's a pleasure to watch.
My back, I mean, that duo battling, I think, is what makes this movie.
And then she's circling back, and we need to find synergy and throwing all the corporate lingo at him.
And he calls her out in all of it. And all of his dialogue back to her was like he was trying to, like you said with that opening line, like he's going to follow the Geneva Convention, even though he's convinced she's an alien and she doesn't have those rights. Like just little stuff like that of like, this guy is kind of smart, but at the same time, he's crazy. And then also the sympathy with his family. Like it's a very layered character for sure.
But he's also a fucking nut job
Oh,
conspiracy
yeah.
theorist who's murdered all these people. And it is this interesting commentary on the class and the environment and, what a worker has to do for its, corporate overlords and the state of our healthcare industry. And it's dealing with all these things at once in a really interesting way. And it just, stuck with me even back, since I first saw it late last year. So I think Bugonia should win Best Picture. Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Hamnet should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 5th part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 of the Best Picture nominees this year at the 98th Academy Awards. We're only talking positives, the stuff we love, no outside drama, no negatives. It was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actress, Adapted Screenplay, Casting, Costume Design, Production Design, and Original Score.
Got a lot of noms. I think it should have gotten a few more that we'll talk about here. And but yeah, for me, this is probably top 3, top 5 movie of the year very easily for me, even on a personal level. There's so many great things about it. I think the thing that makes it as great as it is, obviously, it definitely coming straight from the top. Just talking about the director straight off, Chloe Zhao, I think, is a phenomenal director. Unfortunately, she did get paired up and had to do an Eternals movie, which everybody hated for some reason. But
Hey, Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot coming next, Kody.
Okay, I don't hate that. But I think she found a great couple of people to work with on this project, specifically the actors, which we'll talk a lot about, but also producers Sam Mendes, Steven Spielberg, kind of bringing in their knowledge behind the camera, along with Chloe Zhao, who's already a great kind of director herself. But I really do think all the technicals stand out a ton to me for this movie as well. I mean, we'll talk about the cinematography, I think, a little bit. Obviously, I think the score is amazing. And just the way that she gives her actors kind of the leeway in a sense to, use their emotions and also use the script in different ways. She's not afraid to go a little bit supernatural with some of the themes, but also at the same time, kind of just bringing together this connective story about family, about love, about keeping your heart open. And yeah, it definitely hits you in the emotional, place as well. There's no doubt about that with this movie. But I think it's just, yeah, it's almost a masterpiece in my eyes. So this is definitely one of my favorites of the year.
From a craft perspective, the costuming, the production design, they literally, built the Globe Theater. They recreated this iconic stage that Shakespeare put his plays on. And, maybe not everything in this movie is entirely historically accurate. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about like what is the historically accurate truth when it comes to Shakespeare, but they like build this world out. These people are very dirty and nature based, and it's like you can feel the cloth, and it's super tactile. Everything, the way it's shot, feels very intimate. Like you're there with the characters, you're there, a part of this family, experiencing the distresses, and all of the emotions. And I think this is a movie that if it doesn't work for you emotionally, then that's where you can begin to have some issues. But it, like you said, it's undeniable, the technical skills, and it is a true acting showcase. Like Jesse Buckley, Paul Mescal, both of them are incredible, and you have a really impressive pair of child performances as well, with like Jacoby Jupe and his older brother Noah as well. And just that casting in itself is kind of this brilliant piece of meta textual work by the casting director and the filmmakers to have the youngest Jupe child play this boy Hamnet who dies, and then in the stage production of Hamlet you actually have his real life brother Noah Jupe playing the actor who's playing the physical representation or the metaphorical version of him. I do think that connects very well. It ends in a very emotional final scene. It's one of those movies that it hits you in the face with the ending, right? And then it just cuts to black, which I always love.
And like you said, I mean, a lot of credit goes to, I think, the actors. Shout out to Jupe Brothers, like you were saying too. I think it's even more effective just because when he does come out, and obviously he's playing, young Hamnet, he does look just like him, which obviously, they're brothers. But just the fact of they kind of pulled that off, I think is pretty incredible. And then the just the script as a whole is very interesting. Kind of like you were saying, with the ending is super effective. But also, like, everybody knows this story of Shakespeare, and that's not really the focus of this at all. When we do see little parts of London, kind of how dirty it is, and like you said, recreating the theater, I think is very cool. But the majority of this movie is focused on Jesse Buckley's character mostly. And she's unbelievable, obviously, but just how unique they make her character, kind of like this forest witch. I don't know if that's a good label to put on her, but that's kind of how I see her. And yeah, she kind of has like these almost mystical powers as well with the forest and with this specific tree, but also just by like touching people. Like she can read kind of who they are and kind of who they will be, almost in a sense, which I think is a cool twist that they have in the script. But yeah, I mean, just the buildup of her and Mescal's relationship, I think is magnetic. Both of them are just unbelievable, I feel like, with their chemistry. And then once you get deeper into the movie too, the feelings of despair for sure. I mean, the birth scene, I feel like is a tough watch, even though it does end up being positive. And then obviously, when a young child, passes as well, it's always going to be emotional. But just her, Jessie Buckley's performance during those moments, I think, is extremely powerful. I don't know if she's drawing off any real life stuff with that, but it just seems ultra realistic of kind of what a mother would do in that moment. And the same thing with Mescal too, of, you see the grief and how that affects their relationship. And obviously him kind of choosing work over, staying and processing that grief is another big plot point. It's funny too, because in my head, it's like Shakespeare, he almost gets away with, going away just because we as the audience now.
Oh, well, you did write fucking Hamlet. So you're like, okay, maybe was it worth it? Is that the argument this movie's making?
Yeah, it's like, oh, we know how effective and, iconic his work's going to be. So it makes sense. He's got to do his thing, in the big city and stuff. But even when they're all, in the country town and, he's putting on the play with the kids, for Jessie Buckley, just all that family stuff, I think is really done just extremely well altogether. So I think the script is great. And then like you were saying, the book and ending as well is like, that definitely got me in the theater. Kind of that moment where everybody's reaching out to kind of the actor and, you put yourself in her eyes there, I feel like. So
and of course, you've got On the Nature of Daylight, Max Richter playing. Personally, think it is kind of ridiculous to continue using a song over and over in movies and to then like give it an original score nomination for that reason. However, if you just take it standalone use in this movie, it is very effective and it is a great song. It's an undeniable work of music composition. It is beautiful. It's touching. It brings about all these emotions. And to have that as the backing as well is extremely effective.
I agree. I think that song on its own is great. Obviously, it's great in other media, but I think too the rest of the score is a little bit underrated, just because that is the big touching climactic moment of the score. But I think everything leading up to that as well is also very very good. So I think this would be a fun win in score. I think it has a lot of chances in some of the technicals, and obviously I think Jesse Buckley is basically a shoe in. But it'll be interesting to see how many awards it does pick up. Another nom I wanted to mention that was not there was Mescal, which again, every movie we talk about, I feel like we're talking about a supporting
You
actor.
consider him supporting or lead?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's tough either way. I mean, he's probably not going to get in just with how stacked both of those are. I would say it's more supporting. I mean, for sure. Once we hit like the second act, it's 100% Jesse Buckley's movie at that point. I think he's kind of just popping in and out as he comes and goes from work. But I feel like, yeah, it's got to be on the supporting side. But I thought he was awesome. Even the scene where he's breaking down a little bit, kind of his work's driving him crazy, along with just the grief in its totality, him kind of banging on the desk. But along with that too, it's a great period piece as well. Like you really do feel like it's at a very certain, obviously early on point in our history, which is fun. And it doesn't lean away from kind of, like I was saying, the spirituality of it all with the forest of, I mean, people for a very, very long time obviously had nothing else to live off of other than
Well,
this
and even
forest.
like it's the people kind of think she's crazy because she's
Yeah.
the forest witch thing kind of comes from a rumor about her. Her real mom is not really around. So like the townspeople talk about her like she's this crazy forest lady, and maybe she is a little bit. She's got her bird.
We all do. But yeah, with Mescal too, like I just loved his connection with the Hamnet character specifically. There's a scene where he's saying goodbye and they're both having trouble kind of just leaving each other's
It's an
sight.
awesome shot where it's like super wide and you see them both on like the other sides of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the cinematography as a whole is great too. I mean, even like the opening shot with Jesse Buckley like sleeping kind of near the tree and stuff, like everything in the forest, I feel like, it focuses on like that one specific hole with like lingering shots, which I think is cool too.
mm.
Just everything kind of behind the camera, I think is lights out.
Got to shout out Lucas Zal is the cinematographer. Obviously, Chloe Zhao has shot some of her own movies, Nomadland, prior to this, but he was the cinematographer on The Zone of Interest, which I think is very interesting because this is a movie entirely shot with natural lighting. That's a movie that's like you're basically just setting cameras up and using everything. So to keep everything like super real and natural and like set in this dark time period, I think that's really effective. And that's almost like a documentary style. This one feels in the realm of cinematic narrative fiction. However, it's still super grounded and, like I said, intimate. Like you're there with the characters living this.
Also has a dope hawk that is included in the story a little bit. Like he's got his plot points,
Cool
but it
shots of
just
it through the
yeah,
air.
just the visuals of him kind of flying around and flying on Agnes's
Best
hand.
best animal actor.
I think he's got to be up there. He should definitely be nominated if he doesn't win. But yeah, just all of the visual and technicals I think are off the charts. And along with that, when you combine it with a great director and great performers like this, shout out to the little kids as well. I think like all of the siblings are great, not just the one specific Jupe brother. Although he is really good too. And then yeah, I mean the full circle kind of plot as well. Once we get to the ending, I think it is pretty effective, including, I mean, I'm not sure how much of the actual Hamlet story we actually saw. I mean, it's probably like what,
It's
15
some
minutes.
very particularly selected scenes, I will
Yeah.
say.
Like when you watch, I feel like when you would watch a Hamlet movie or Hamlet production, there's a
It's a
lot more
long
going
play and there's a
on.
lot of shit going on. I think it's
Yeah.
probably Shakespeare wrote a lot of plays with a lot of crazy shit that happened. So, yes, he probably pulled some stuff from real life tragedies, but he also probably, have you seen The Northman, Kody? Like, that's Hamlet before Hamlet happened. Like, this is also an old legend that predates even Shakespeare himself. So it's like, it's an interesting thing. We talked about this when we did our sentimental value episode originally. Like, where does a director, where does a writer get their idea from? And I think this is an interesting examination of that, taking something that's very personal, heartbreak, and transforming it into, the most iconic piece of literature maybe of all time outside of the Odyssey. Going back to the performances, Mescal and Jesse Buckley, but particularly Mescal, like this is dialogue and lines that we've has almost become meaningless to us because we've heard it so many times, and we've it's become so like it's shaped what our language is as a society. So then to have him deliver that for the very first time, it's like an impossible task almost, and it is impressive what Mescal is able to do. And then on Best Buckley's turn, it's just raw emotion. It's screaming, yelling, crying. It's that stuff that maybe seems easy but truly like is impossible to make look, truly real, and it feels like she lost her child.
For her performance, I don't know if there are even any other contenders for Best Actress, to be completely honest.
I think she's got it locked up. Even the, her hating cats smear campaign that was out there, it isn't going to do it.
That is tough. Yeah. Cap didn't approve that, but do approve her performance in this. I mean, like you're saying, the crazy emotional scenes, the one that stands out for me is definitely like the birth. Just that pure emotion. It is brutal. And I don't know if this is a movie that's crazy rewatchable. I'll say that too. It is more of that kind of prestige drama that is maybe just worth one watch. I do want to go back and rewatch just like the ending over and over, maybe with that song. But all of the in between emotion is really tough, and that is just because Jessie Buckley makes it so realistic. So yeah, she's awesome, and excited to see her do pretty much anything she wants, other than the bride. But she's awesome.
Now in theaters.
Go see it.
Hamnet should win Best Picture then. Hey, Kody.
I'm down. Shout out Chloe Zhao.
Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why The Secret Agent should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 6th part in a 10-part series where we break down all 10 of the Best Picture nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. We're talking about what we love, no drama, no negatives, no smear campaigns. The Secret Agent was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Casting, and Best International Feature. Pretty good showing for a movie that I think early in the year, neither of us even knew anything about. It's now the second year in a row we've had a Brazilian film break into the Best Picture category. And I got to say, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. And it's a movie that I think is just so layered and intricate and zigzags in ways that, especially on first watch, I wasn't prepared for, but I've only become to appreciate and love the movie because of more after watching again and beginning to think about. I think it's a movie that isn't for stupid people. Like just to be honest, like it is like a layered and nuanced movie. It takes some certain level of like research about the country and the understanding of the culture and what it's trying to say. And it is very specific to the time and the place that it was made, which I love movies that can transport you. It's shot in Recife, Brazil, this real place where the director is from, taking you back to the 70s. And it's also just a movie that's so much about class and race and political turmoil and corruption and trying to survive through these times. And then also how important it is to remember those times when they have passed. It's not that long ago that this stuff was happening in Brazil. It's not that long ago stuff like that was happening in America. Maybe it's still happening in America right now. So it's important to remember it no matter what. And then you've got fucking Wagner Moira at the center of it, just looking incredibly handsome, guiding you through. What did you think on your first watch, Kody?
Yeah, I did really enjoy this. I mean, its argument for Best Picture, like you're saying, is much different from a movie like F1's. This is definitely more of the art house genre than.
It's a little meandering. It's slow. It's driving the Beetle through the streets.
It's got the vibes, I feel like, but it also has the performances. Like you said, it has a really interesting script that 100% places you, in this era in Brazil, or just a very dangerous time to kind of be anybody really. And it really does a great job of diving into these characters, kind of where they come from, why they are doing the things that they are doing. And I think the cast is almost immaculate, to be completely honest. Like you were saying, I mean, Wagner Moura obviously got the nomination for Best Actor. Was actually very excited to kind of see him get that in a stacked category this year. I think he is obviously the anchor of this movie. Without him, it is just very, very different. And I think maybe with the turmoil going on in Best Actor, he could have a sneaky chance to win it, which would be sick for Brazil and for him as well. But glad that he still just got the recognition, regardless of winning or not. Because again, I mean, he goes through kind of every emotion that you can see on film. Definitely off the bat, just kind of see him on the run, obviously. but then you see kind of how he got there, and the anger inside of him, and also the passion at the same time for the people that he loves, specifically his wife, who's been very, very wronged. But then bouncing off that, everybody that we meet along the road, I think is great, especially from a casting perspective. I want to shout out right off the bat this side character. The actress's name is Tanya Maria. She plays
Donna Sebastiana.
yeah, I love her. She's kind of the person who obviously helps house all these different
She's
refugees.
running this kind of like refugee camp. Yeah.
She's absolutely amazing. I want to see her in basically every movie. I think that she's just so loving. She is so realistic. It doesn't even feel like, she's acting in a movie. It feels like just some random old lady that you met on the street and you're just having a conversation about kind of the cool things that she's done with her life, kind of her perspective on life. So every scene that she was in, I thought she was magnetic. And then obviously with her and Wagner kind of bouncing off each other and, working more into the plot, like you said, that's where they're just the themes of, kind of censorship and, family and survival. I think it is a movie, like the deeper that you dive into it, kind of the more that you get out of it. It's like you said, I mean, just afterwards doing research about the era. And they use a really cool plot point as well of kind of this researcher, or I'm not sure who she is, maybe an investigator, a reporter or somebody. Kind of she gets hold of these tapes, with Wagner. And then eventually goes to his now son Fernando, who's grown, and kind of gives him all this information, which kind of the revelation there of like he doesn't really know anything about his father that much. Like you said, just we need to remember people like this, and there's tons of times where people kind of just get erased off the planet in a sense because of these crazy things, and it's hard to remember them just because of the censorship. But I thought that was a really strong theme, kind of bookended from that cool script point.
Well, and the whole reason that Wagner Moira's character is in Recife is because he's looking for his own mother's identification card. He wants proof that this person existed, that she was a real person who had him, because it was this, he was like his father had an affair with basically like a person in the household, and he wasn't raised by his mother, so he's risking his life. He should have been out of the country, off safe, just to try and find this piece of information to connect himself to the past. And then we see him pop up playing his son later. It's another dual performance in a movie this year, and I think it is a fun, distinctly different character. I think the framing device is the thing I struggled the most with on the first watch, of like, it seems straightforward. You're following Wagner Moura's character throughout his time, but then you start to hear these tapes getting played and you're flashing forward, like you said, to the present, and seeing these two girls who are doing basically translations on these tapes for a university. But then she's hearing and learning the story and becomes enamored herself, and reaches out and contacts the young son, which I think is a very, kind of off kilter way to tell the story. And then you even find in the end, like, you don't see Marcelo get shot, Armando at all get shot. Like, he just dies off screen in this kind of strange way, with almost no like real record of it happening.
I did think that was very powerful, the way that, like you said, we see his death through newspaper clippings, basically, and that's the only thing that we do see. We see everything leading up to that, but not kind of that specific moment. But like you were saying too, I mean, there's a different kind of just side plot with the movie as well, where it feels like almost Coen Brothers esque, kind of like hiring a couple of hitmen to come after Wagner. Just those characters are
But
fun on
not
their
good
own.
hitman necessarily.
Right. The crazy stepdad, and then this guy Bobby, who catches a lot of flack throughout the movie. But I thought like they were cast well and they have some menace. But the guy that they hire, I actually thought that he was a standout as well from a casting standpoint. Kind of just like this every day worker man, who comes in and kind of is scouting out the scene for him. Like his one scene with where he's yelling Armand at Wagner, like trying to just confirm it's him, I thought was super intense. And especially like the cinematography during that scene was great, I thought. But also too, just talking about the casting for his family as well, like the one scene with his wife Fatima, I thought was maybe my favorite scene in the movie, and she was really well cast. But you also just see like the impact that her father, who's also in the movie, Mr. Alexandre, he's this local theater owner, just this really lovable kind of dad character who's awesome. But I thought their relationship was great. Him and his daughter Fatima, just because you see in that one scene with her, she's talking about my dad's real, man. He was working at age 9. Like, you're nobody. It's a great scene between her and obviously Wagner and this German guy who's basically shutting down their programming. He's a real asshole. But I thought her passion was awesome. And then when we see the dad character too, you just see kind of who she is through him and how, just sweet and nice. And like that actor, I thought just knocked out of the park. I feel like he's that classic theater owner character in a movie like this. So all of the tiny characters were immaculate in my eyes.
And the movie's a real ode to cinemas and to like the
Yeah.
power of movies. And there's obviously like
Jaws.
the Jaws stuff and the title, The Secret Agent, comes from a movie that's playing in the actual theater. He's not really a secret agent, even though he's just this professor that has to start using a fake name because of the political. It's like he's forced into this position when he's really just an academic. Like he's just trying to raise his kid, but he's put into this awful position because he's trying to do the right thing. And now he's just one of many refugees here. And the father, the theater owner character, is incredible. He's the one who again raises the kid, and he says he was my real father. It feels like. I want to talk about the shark, and I want to talk about the leg specifically because this is like the most like totally off the wall, unexpected scene for me when a real disembodied leg starts attacking people. But where that comes from is in the 70s there was like this folk story at the time that people were getting attacked on the beach by this disembodied leg, and it was unsure, and it kept getting written about in the newspaper. And what it really was a journalist was using talking about a disembodied leg to really report on police violence, and particularly like police doing violence against homosexuals, people who are just going down to the beach. So it's these real accounts of police brutality that were reported on and framed by a leg, and we get to see this like play out with a fun kind of slapstick VFX sequence of a leg hopping through the town and like beating the shit out of people. But that's just another layer of like way that this is so distinctly culturally about this setting in this time period. And it's a kind of a cool story to bring up of like this journalist who was still reporting in a unique way about awful things that were happening.
On first watch, when that scene just comes on, you're like, what is going on? Like, you think it is almost going for, this cartoonish, crazy thing. But I feel like, recontextualizing that with the movie, that is a lot more powerful and makes it even a lot more scary, kind of who they're going up against with, this fascist regime is kind of how I see it in a sense. So definitely do like the intricacy there. Like you're saying too, just the thematic stuff with like Jaws, I thought was really interesting too, of him being like obsessed with just the poster of the movie as a kid without even seeing the movie, and then him having like these recurring nightmares. They find a leg in a shark, which just kind of wraps it all together too, with Jaws, which I think is fun. So it uses a lot of external factors while making the script, but it all still does come together pretty well. It's a little bit longer movie. I mean, it's probably 2.5, 240, but it doesn't feel that long, I don't think. I mean, it's kind of a sit around and talking movie. There's definitely some action. There's no doubt about that. Chase sequences and stuff, but it's a pretty low key movie, and it doesn't feel super long, which I think is definitely a positive for a drama like this.
I really love the opening of this film too, as well. Just the way you see him in this yellow beetle pulling up to this gas station. There's just a dead body that's been sitting there for days. The owner of the station is like, "Yeah, I called, like nobody's coming." Some police roll up. They're not even interested in this dead body. They're just there to shake him down and literally like only just get a couple cigarettes out of him, but that's enough. Like they just want some sort of bribe. And it just instantly you're like, okay, no one gives a shit about anybody's life. Nobody really care. Like the police are fully corrupt. Like it sets the tone so well from the beginning, and everything else following is just perfectly to that T. I love every choice that they make in the structure of the story, the way it's edited together, when they decide to bring in the different flashbacks as you learn more about his backstory. Again, the researchers in the future. It is an intricate like Jenga tower of story that when you get to the end, it really pieces together beautifully.
Beginning to end, I think it is very cohesive too. But like you said, that opening is awesome of just putting you in that world, establishing, you're not going to get any help. You're actually going to have people working against you, it looks like, for the majority of kind of your life, which is unfortunate. And then yeah, just the disregard for kind of the dead body as well is just insane. And it kind of pulls you out of your own morals and puts you into this kind of, crazy landscape where you have to deal with all this firsthand. So super effective, I think, on all accounts. And the technicals, I think, are very well done too. So overall, a pretty great movie, I think, and one that deserved a Best Picture nom. It'd be a really fun winner, I think.
Two other things I want to shout out: the cat, dude, the fucking two-headed cat. That
Yes.
shit is awesome. Janus cat. Obviously, it's like maybe the most on the nose metaphor you could have of like
Yeah.
having to have two faces and live two lives, but it's sick. So cool. Never seen shit like that in a movie. And that's why I go to see movies. The police characters, the police sheriff characters that are tormenting this guy, and they keep saying he's a German Nazi soldier, but it's very clear this is a Jewish man who was tormented during the Holocaust. I love that layer. Another movie, Marty Supreme has some interesting like backstory about the Holocaust. The way this one uses this victim of the Holocaust and his backstory and the torment, I just find that super interesting. And the way that, obviously in South America, the ramifications of World War II are prevalent, and one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and incredibly heartbreaking.
That scene specifically, I feel like it feels a little out of place story wise, but it really does a great job of showing just a different side, kind of Wagner's character.
And how fucking awful these police guys are.
Oh yeah, that's another great side character too.
But they love Wagner. They're like, this guy's
Yeah.
cool as fuck.
Who wouldn't? I mean, everybody loves Wagner in this movie, really, other than
True.
people chasing him. But yeah, that cop character is super fun, like super eccentric, obviously just corrupt as hell. So he adds another fun, just kind of aspect to the movie as well.
Both of his kids get just shot and killed at the end. Tough.
Yeah, pretty tough. That's everybody.
But hey,
really though, yeah.
The Secret Agent should win Best Picture. I agree. Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Marty Supreme should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 7th part in a 10-part series where we break down what is supreme about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today we're only talking about what we love. No outside drama, no smear cames, no what happened on the Good Times set. We're not getting into it. We're purely talking about this as a piece of art, Marty Supreme, which was nominated for director, actor, screenplay, casting, cinematography, production design, editing, costume design, and of course, Best Picture. It's weird. It feels like a couple months ago we would have said, Timothée Chalamet was a lock for Best Actor. I don't know if it's going to happen. It is still a very impressive performance. I think to me, while it is similar to his personality and his persona more so than something like Bob Dylan, just the pure ping pong work, the athleticism, the ability to like learn this skill and put it on stage. It is akin to learning an instrument, learning to play a song, learning to play, baseball for real. This guy's playing ping pong in a very impressive way. And also, the boisterous, nonstop, dream big attitude that he kind of, continued on through the entire marketing of this movie is just an exciting lead character and an exciting lead performance. There's a lot of great stuff about this movie. What do you like about it?
I mean, definitely Timmy's performance, I think, is one of the great things about this movie. Like you said, I mean, he does have similarities to the character where it does blend, just his personality and the character, which I think is always something you would look for, in casting. So I think well done there. This script on its own is insane. Obviously, it being a Safdie, script, that's not super surprising. So he's taken through a lot of twists and turns and a lot of emotions. But I do love just kind of the core of his character, like you're saying, of just wanting to dream big. And he does start off just like so confident that he can achieve his goals. I love kind of just like the blind optimism that he has. I do really like the ping pong stuff at the beginning as well. I think that cinematography specifically, and also just like the production and costume design and kind of the ping pong tournament as a whole is really, really successful. Like you said, it's not easy to kind of capture this sport on film. But I think they really do a good job of putting you, at the table and kind of give you a little bit of context of what it would feel like, being at a championship, match and stuff like that. Obviously, after that first tournament, it's kind of just a tailspin of him trying to, make it to Japan for kind of the next big championships and stuff, which 100% goes off the rail multiple times. But I think the script for me is probably the standout of maybe the award that this movie has the best chance of winning. I'm not sure. I think, 9 noms is a lot. I think it's got a chance for sure in a lot of the technicals. But I think script wise, it is very interesting. And it concludes very well too, I think, of that ending shot. Timmy kind of breaking down, getting a good look at his and Odessa's kid. Maybe one of the best acting scenes of the year as well. So a lot going on in this, a lot to talk about, but yeah, I think the script and for sure the lead performance are its best arguments here.
It's obviously an incredibly fast talking, he's super energetic. The screenplay is about a guy who's constantly digging himself further and further into this hole, unable to get it out, causing a new problem. Every turn and every like awful thing that happens is insane and incredibly written, whether it's a fucking bathtub falling through the ceiling or a dog like coming and biting someone's arm off. Like fucking shit, insane shit keeps happening. Penn fucking Gillette shows up. Like the cast of characters, whether it's real people that are just kind of like weird on the street guys that they brought in. You've got people like Luke Manley who've never acted in a movie before. And then, of course, classic actors like Gwyneth Paltrow, Fran Drescher, the fucking former president of the SAG-AFTRA.
Oh, gotcha.
And then you get, Kevin O'Leary, a real fucking billionaire piece of shit to play a billionaire piece of shit in the movie. So it is this perfect mix. Tyler, the creator, is brought in, like perfect mix of just like good faces, real life people, that creates this really fun amalgamation of a cast. It is a period piece set in the 50s. The production design from Jack Fist, guy who used to work with David Lynch, is incredibly well done. It's built out, the cars, the clothing. Even I think of that like first scene in the shoe store at the beginning when they're like going back and forth, and then they start having sex in the back, but just even like the production design of the shoe store and then the cut to the fun opening credit sequence. It's a really well built out movie.
I think top to bottom, especially from a technical perspective, it's hard to find too many flaws or things that I dislike with it. For sure, too, just the score and soundtrack, I think, is another standout. I don't think it was known for that, actually, which is a bit surprising, but soundtrack, kind of the ending and bookend songs, both bang, just classic like 80s songs as well. And I think it does a great job of being of its era. Like you said, taking you back to that time period with the cars and especially the costumes too, which it did get a nom for, which I think it might have a very good shot, honestly, to win that category just because of all the work put into that. But I wanted to talk about the cast too and kind of touch on what you're saying of it does an interesting job of like having really good actors and actresses, but also at the same time just throwing in any randos they want just to keep it as realistic as possible. I think a lot of the niche people that he meets along the way, like they're effective just because they seem like these just very random people who you could run across, at any point, like the hotel manager, just like random people like that in really fun roles. And they do a great job. And Kevin O'Leary, yeah, I mean, he's a complete asshole, but I don't think he'll ever act again, if we're being completely honest. But then, you have the prestige performers too. Gwyneth, I think, clocks in for a good performance. I think obviously Timmy and Odessa have, pretty great chemistry, I would say. Tyler, the creator, I thought was great. I think that scene specifically where they're kind of hustling at the bowling alley is one of my favorites in the movie. And that 100% has a lot to do with Tyler, creator, I think. So I just thought from a casting perspective, it was pretty impressive. The New York guy, which you said his name earlier, he's great too. Another person who I feel like just him and Timmy would just be friends like off camera. Same with Odessa, same with Tyler Perry. Like probably acting for them in these scenes were very easy in a sense, just because they probably can do that in real life with kind of no qualms. So, Safdie, like you're saying, maybe some negative stuff here popping up recently, but I think he knows how to cast. I think he knows how to, work behind the camera. The cinematography as a whole, for sure, too, I think is definitely very impressive. Top to bottom with this movie, especially like the end scene where he's playing Endo, in kind of that climactic battle. I feel like that's shot really interesting as well, with some POV shots, some more just classic kind of horizontal shots as well, showing both of them at the table. So yeah, from a technical perspective, I think it's pretty off the wall as well.
It's not quite challengers level of making a sport that's not cool, exciting, but like ping pong, it's not the coolest thing in the world to watch. And I do think this is able to shoot it in a way that makes it exciting, and for the few different scenes, whether it's that opening tournament where they're kind of doing the trick shots, or the bowling alley hustle, or the final showdown in Japan, it is exciting, and it's able to kind of cut and edit the games down to where you get the most important points and you get to see the storyline of the match without having to sit through every boring back and forth boom 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 boom.
Well, I don't think that's boring, but yeah, it does a really good job of just not focusing on the ping pong too. The majority of the story is for sure more of kind of the up and downs
of the
trying to get the money, to kind of, feel his passion in a sense. And he's just as passionate about his getting there, as he is about winning and playing. So he's going to stop at nothing, to achieve these goals. So it's just constantly him hustling, him lying. Him and Odessa are just this great pair. She does some stuff as well to manipulate his character. She's married. He's not, I guess, but he has so many relationships it's hard to keep track of. But obviously, her use of kind of the eye black and her current marriage, and then, obviously her getting pregnant from Timmy. It just, their relationship I thought was pretty interesting, and just how they keep coming back and finding each other eventually. His relationship with Gweno, I didn't think was as layered, but still interesting, especially including, Kevin O'Leary coming in at the end. And you think for a second, like he's going to get the money just from her jewelry and stuff. And then they're having sex in the park or something, and the cops come up and take it. And then he's going to go get another one. But then her play gets, review bombed and she's in shambles. So the end result is Kevin O'Leary's got to do like this public slapping, which I think is an interesting scene. So you really just do see like, the start of just this pure, blissful confidence to the end, like this tore down character who, he's willing to get humiliated to, still achieve his goals. So I just think that progression was interesting. And yeah, Timmy does a great job of kind of, rolling with the punches and going off the rails at times. But like I said, still at the end, still being grounded and super emotional for when he needs to.
And this is what the richest, most awful people in America like will do, and and don't like won't think twice about like that they're bad people. They want to smack you on the ass, and then they'll give you a little something for it. And this is an interesting story about like a Jewish guy in post World War II America, going head to head with like a Japanese foe, and there's all these like greater cultural implications there that are interesting in the story. It's a story about trying to find greatness and achieve greatness, and he struggles, and he encounters a lot of roadblocks, and it is watching it is a tough journey, I would say.
It's similar to, for sure, the other Safdie movies where, it is very stressful, I would say. Like the pace is nonstop. Like you said off the bat, I mean, the script itself too is very fast talking and very quippy to begin with, but it does have some interesting stuff to say thematically too. I think like the one scene that really stands out with that, plays off of what you're talking about, just with the time era, kind of after World War II. The honey story, that scene specifically, I think is one that stands out, especially post watch, as a little bit different, tonality from a lot of the rest of the movie, but still a cool story and just a cool kind of little subplot to put in there to give a little bit more kind of character development of kind of just showing the ultimate sacrifice of, in your head you might think that you're sacrificing, but when a story like that is shown, it's like, man, like it's just unbelievable kind of the way that people were forced to survive, during this time period. So definitely, I mean, with Penn character too, you see some of that anti-Semitism that's obviously still prevalent during the era and everything. Even though kind of that dog subplot, I think maybe goes a little bit too far off kind of focus. I did think that those elements still, gave it meaning and, still made it interesting.
Yeah, that story and the honey thing, I've talked about. I don't maybe love the way it's used, and especially the way it just like the reaction it ends up getting out of people. However, I do like the way like Kevin O'Leary reacts to it, and the way that like is a commentary on who he is as a person, as a character, and is almost like giddy joy that he experiences. And it's like this awful tragic story of perseverance, like you said. But for him, it's just entertainment value.
And that's all he wants 24/7. I mean, honestly, I don't think Kevin O'Leary is doing any acting in this movie per se. So good performance, I guess, from him.
I'm a
But
vampire.
that's a great line, actually. That might be the best line in the movie. I think originally too they were going to actually have him be a vampire, which I think would have been fun, but maybe takes the realism
Sinners
away.
ate their lunch. They couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't have another vampire movie.
After Sinners, you got to abandon that plot point. But I think the script as a whole, it like I said, I mean, there's some stuff you could probably take out, but just for how fast paced it is, it's not overly long, I don't think. And like I said, I think the music selection to kind of kick it off and get the movie moving, and then as well kind of the bookend of everybody wants to save the world. I think
to be forever young.
That might be the best opening of the year. With just the visuals along with sex there, which is very interesting. But yeah, great opening and great ending, I think, which is what you want in a movie like this. You want it to be memorable, have a lot of interesting moments that the audience won't forget. Maybe it does go for the shock factor a little bit in some scenes, but I think, top to bottom, it's a solid flick, and definitely one that is deserved of 9 noms. And if there weren't a lot of these external factors, it actually might have a pretty good shot of winning. So I think in a different year, this could be a Best Picture winner.
Best unibrow as well. Unibrow, acne scars. The makeup is incredible
The
on
makeup is awesome. Yeah. The fact that people actually thought Timmy had, these scars after watching this movie, I think is a testament to the people behind the scenes. So I was very impressed by that as well.
Everybody wants to rule the world. Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Sentimental Value should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 8th part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 Best Picture nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today we're talking only about what we love, the movie itself, no outside drama, no negatives. Of course, along with Best Picture, it was nominated for Director, Actress, Supporting Actor, and Supporting Actress, Screenplay, Director, International Film, and Editing. A lot of nominations for this one, and especially in categories like Director and Editing, would really indicate that this movie is very strongly supported. I think this is the first one outside of maybe The Secret Agent, which that even is a period piece of the 10 that we've talked about, that is a purely just classical character drama. There's great production design, there's good camera work and editing, but it's not necessarily the technical aspects that launch this. It's the incredible story, it's the amazing acting, and it's kind of the commentary it has about the greater filmmaking community and the landscape of getting art house and international films made in the year 2026. So this one, I feel like, stands out against the other 10 as kind of a different sort of movie.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that's one of the things that makes it great is just its overall uniqueness. Like you said, I feel like compared to a lot of the other movies this year too, like this is a very, character driven story, and also just like an actor and actress, driven story.
And I'm not saying we don't have that in like Sinners or
Yeah.
in One Battle, but like those have more genre elements and more big action set pieces. Like this is people in rooms talking.
Yeah. This is very meta for filmmaking, which I really do like. And maybe that's why it bodes well with the Academy. I mean, it's pretty crazy as well that basically every, person in this movie, acting wise, is pretty much nominated.
The three leads essentially all get, I mean, I think you could argue all three of
Yeah.
them are the leads of this film.
Well, and Elle Fanning as well. So I mean, it's really impressive. I think obviously, I think the lead performance itself from Renat is just outstanding. Just her kind of emotional intelligence, and also too, just I mean, pairing her up with Stellan, which the Academy classifies it as a supporting role. I mean, he's definitely a main focus of the movie. I feel like the movie does a really great job of showing where he comes from and how that affected, obviously his relationship with Renat, and now where I think they're both just in like really interesting places in their life too. Where Stellan's kind of he's about 70. He's kind of this old director, hasn't worked for like 15 years, but he made a lot of good stuff in his peak. And he kind of has this script that he was inspired by, multiple things in his life. Definitely his daughter being kind of the main one, but also his mother. So, like you said, the layeredness as well of the characters in the script, I think, is really impressive. But the actors, because so much is just said in this movie without even talking. But like you said, the majority of the movie is just people sitting around talking. So that combination, I think, is lethal, and definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. But I think it should have a strong case for Best Picture. It being international, I don't know if it helps or hurts it, but I would love to see it win.
Primarily a Norwegian spoken film. There is a little bit of English dialogue, but I would say it's 85% foreign language.
Yeah, just Elle Fanning basically is the only time English is really needed. And that's a fun character just for her too, being like this movie star who, is a big fan of Stellan's work and everything. But she really just brings a different element to the movie as well, of someone who's miscast, and someone who tries to insert themselves in something that they love, but at the same time, like, they realize it's not for them. So I thought her arc was very interesting, even though I don't know if she necessarily deserved the nomination just based off screen time. But also the other sister, who I forgot to mention, what's her name, Corbin? Ignis?
Inga Ipsbader Lilius.
She's awesome. the really emotional core of this movie as well. One of my favorite scenes is definitely kind of the resolution between her and Renat. Her talking about how how helpful Renat was during their tough childhood and everything, but just like all of the emotional scenes with her, that specific scene as well, where she's looking at their relative who kind of got tortured during um, Nazi death camps and stuff, concentration camps. Just her reaction to that too, just so raw. And I've never seen her in anything other than this, but I thought that she was phenomenal as well, and really did stand her ground against, I mean, top tier actors clearly.
2 episodes ago with the secret agent, and then of course Marty Supreme, both having these kind of secondary elements regarding the Holocaust and World War II and the trauma that's still resulting from that. And this movie as well, obviously the history of the Nordic countries, Norway in particular, like there is we talked about it in our Girl with the Dragon Tattoo episode, where it's like there's this long history of generational trauma caused by the things that Germany did and the Nazis invading and taking control. And that's what this character of his mother, the true framework of his story, that's where it comes from. Her being tortured, her having this awful growing up experience. And then, the way that gets passed to Stellan, the way that Stellan passes those issues on to his own daughters and they're fucked up because of it. I love these characters because they are flawed and they're very stubborn, and like you kind of understand why she doesn't want to do the movie with her dad. You get it 100%, but at the same time you're like, fuck, like just make the movie. Like this would be such a beautiful moment. So there is just like that internal conflict when you're watching it, which is great.
I agree too. I think especially at the beginning of the movie, their relationship is really interesting. Just because like he kind of insults her profession a lot. He kind of says things that like I
It's
don't
very
think
blunt.
yeah, he's not trying to be an asshole, but he's definitely going off that way. So you do kind of relate with Renat, and then once they kind of show more of Stellan's story and stuff, I think it just it becomes a really beautiful thing. Especially I love the resolution as well, where they both kind of find happiness of it seems like she was a little bit sick of just, where she was at in her career with the plays and everything. And, her dad being an asshole about it probably didn't help. But I do love that final scene of obviously them doing the big oneer and then just like their reactions after, hitting cut and nailing the scene. Just like I feel like one of the first times we actually see like pure joy from Renat in this movie, which is really satisfying. And same with Stellan as well. I mean, he's depressed and drunk for the majority of it. So I think that ending really brings it together. I wanted to shout out too, just like we're saying, it's definitely more focused on the characters and the acting, but the technicals are great too. This house alone is its own character.
You can count production design, but I guess really I think it's more location scouting that they're
Yeah,
able to like find this incredible piece of architecture that becomes a thematic moment. It's a symbol in the film. I tell you what, when you see that house remodeled and changed at the end of the movie, that might be like one of the most fucking heart wrenching moments in all film of 2025. It's really heartbreaking stuff, and it's just a house that's changed. It's incredible the amount of emotion they're able to like tie into this place. And of course, that's also, they sell off the house so that they can get this movie made and have it done. You talked about getting to see the oneer. I love the fact that like we get to hear him the way he wants to shoot the scene described, and then it kind of goes through different iterations of what this movie's going to be, and then when we see the final version of it's like it's still recognizable, but it's a new thing. And it is cool to see like that artistic process happen as well. But man, that house, man, from beginning to end is crazy.
it's almost like an emotional jump scare when they kind of cut to the house remodeled and stuff. It's
So
something that really
tacky and awful
yeah,
looking.
pulls at the heartstrings. And I think it's just because they set it up so well too. Of kind of the opening is basically like a
Yeah.
narrator just talking about the house and kind of the family's history in it. So I think that connection off the bat is really well done. But yeah, all the filmmaking aspects I find interesting as well, especially just like Stellan's perspective. I think he has a really interesting conversation near the end of the movie with his one buddy, where he's like, this is probably the last movie we're going to make, regardless of what happens, like make it yours. Like if you don't think Elle's right for the role, in a sense, like you got to do you. So I thought that was interesting of like, it's this guy's final, swan song, and it's one of his better scripts, which is interesting too. It's kind of like he's kind of finally figured it out after
Tarantino wishes, man.
Tarantino could never get that many movies made. But it's kind of like he has a better realization of his life, him portraying his daughter pretty realistically of kind of her emotions and a lot of stuff that she had to go through. So I think that him actually acknowledging that, with this script, even though he doesn't do it great verbally, it's still kind of beautiful in a way.
You were right earlier in correcting me. Is this movie got 4 acting nominations, 2 in supporting actress, 1 in lead, and 1 in supporting actor. Um, and yet it didn't get nominated for casting, which there was a lot of hubbub around.
Makes
I
no
get
sense.
that. Now, to me, it's really these 4 core actors. And if you say, well, Renate Reinsve has worked with Joachim Trier before, she was going to be in this movie anyways, and Stellan, is almost brought in as fine. Like, it becomes less of building out an incredible ensemble. And it's also not an award for the actors. It's Inga Ipsbader Ilias, like, she's not really been in any very major movies. And to me, she is like this big revelation in this film, is the most impressive person. So it is interesting that it wasn't nominated for casting, but I also, there's a lot of misunderstanding of what the casting nomination is. And I think like a movie, Secret Agent, has them, a much wider, diverse cast of different characters and faces and stuff.
I think that comparison of just like it's almost like the quantity is important with the
Sure.
casting role because there's so many perfectly cast roles in the Secret Agent, like we talked about. And in this movie, like pretty much every role is cast perfectly, but there's only like 5 or 6 roles.
Right.
So I don't really understand how it wasn't nominated. To be fair, still, especially like you said with the kind of intro of Ignis. And then also Elle Fanning out of nowhere. I mean, this is her first nomination, and she's barely in the movie, if we're being completely
Should have
honest.
gotten one last year for A Complete Unknown, though, right?
Yeah, I mean,
No,
probably
not really.
wrong.
2 years in a row. She's on the up and up.
But yeah, I mean, I think the casting is definitely, I mean, obviously very, very well done. I really don't think any other 2 people, any other like 3 leads, it would just be a completely different movie. So shout out the direction as well. Joachim Trier, haven't mentioned him a ton. I believe he got a nom, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if he wins. I mean, with it being international, it's a Norwegian film, right? It's not Swedish.
Norwegian, yeah.
Norwegian. Shout out to the Norse. But yeah, I mean, that'd be dope if he brought any sort of awards home. I think it has a shot at Best Picture. I think it deserves Best Picture. It is a tough year. There's no like clear standout, and more of the art house, voters maybe will go towards this instead of stuff like The Secret Agent. I don't know, but it could split votes there too. So I hope the performances, garner it a lot of respect, but I don't know what to expect honestly at the Oscars for this movie.
It is a movie that probably like 10 years ago doesn't get nominated. And it's just because of this opening up of European films coming in and the importance of Cannes and the Academy widening over the last few years. If something hits out of Cannes and is the talk of the town, like it's going to stick around. And of course, Stellan, this is his first acting nomination ever. Like, this guy has had a huge,
Crazy.
long career. I think it could win international. It's obviously a very stacked category with even a couple others in Best Picture, like The Secret Agent. Screenplay, it's probably going to Sinners, and rightfully so. In original, this does have a good shot. Maybe you give one Battle Picture Sinners director and you give this screenplay. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I think it probably has the best argument for screenplay, like
Yeah.
compared to the direction in Sinners in One Battle. I feel like this script has more to offer maybe than those movies, but obviously those movies on a lot of other aspects are very strong. But yeah, I think international too. I'd be a bit disappointed if it doesn't win, to be completely honest. But it'll be a good race. So I'm excited to see how it performs. I would love to see just an out of nowhere Best Picture win for it. And yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. There's no doubt about it.
It arguably has one of the funnier scenes of the year as well, when Stellan Skarsgård character gives this young child a couple inappropriate DVDs, get him started on the cinema track early with some graphic features for him.
It's a great gift, I think. He knows that he's going to use him as an actor, so you gotta learn the basics, buddy.
It's true. He's like Marty to Leo. Let me show you this movie. Let me give you this one. If you're going to be acting in my movie, let me show you Gaspar Noé's Irreversible.
I think he does do a great job as well of like throwing in fun scenes, having those comedic moments, even though like it is very emotional performances and stuff. Like that scene and the beach scene, I think, are 2 of my favorites in the
Yeah, I
film.
gotta say the beach scene is great between him and Elle.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that's pretty early on in the movie as well. But you can just see kind of their connection, and like Stellan, the way that he lives, I mean, I think it's just him staying up all night, partying with the young kids. Like he is still young at heart. And I think it didn't take till a rewatch for me to even realize like how old he's even playing. Like he's playing like a 70-year-old guy in this movie, but he's so
But
active.
you know how old Stellan Skarsgård is, right?
I assume that's probably his age, but he looks damn good. So
Sure. He's got adult men who are as children. Alexander Skarsgård, he's like 74.
it's true. I mean, Alexander Skarsgård looks like he's about 50, but he's probably. But I love Stellan. It's shocking that it's his first nom as well for how old he is and
Yeah.
how well. I mean, how great of an actor he's been for such a long period of time. So glad to see him getting a lot of recognition too.
Let's do it. Sentimental Value, Best Picture.
All day.
Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
Today we're going to tell you why One Battle After Another should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 9th part in a 10-part series where each episode we break down what's great about all 10 nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today we're only talking about the positives, the stuff in the movie that's great, the making of the movie, no outside drama, no negatives. Of course, this is the second most nominated film this year, 13 nominations. If it wasn't for Sinners, you would say 13 is an incredible number. It's like the second highest there had ever been anyway. So really incredible showing in director, actor, supporting actress, 2 supporting actor nominations, adapted screenplay, casting, cinematography, film editing, score, production design, and sound. Where do you even start with this movie, Kody?
I mean, basically got nominated in every major category, I feel like. So you can go really any direction that you want. And yeah, I think it's just a fun year too, because it does really feel a little bit like a two-horse race. In One Battle, I think it has a very good case, especially on a technical level of kind of being the best movie of the year.
And it's the old guard, old Hollywood, a master maybe finally getting his chance versus a
True.
new up and comer in Ryan Coogler, built out of the Marvel system. It is an interesting dichotomy of 2 parts of Hollywood. They're both going to come away with some awards at the end of the night. Neither of these movies are going to go home empty-handed. But One Battle, I think, was the one that the expectations were so high for. Sinners, not a lot of people knew what to expect there, what was going to happen, and it kind of came in and blew everyone out of the water. But One Battle, Paul Thomas Anderson adapting Vineland, this book and a script that he's had for so long that he's wanted to try and make and have happen. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. And I think it does, amazingly live up to a lot of the expectations. It looks incredible. It's a pretty long movie, over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and yet it feels like it flies by when you're watching it. A ton of electric performances, even the unnominated ones like Chase Infinity, who doesn't get the Oscars love, was incredible in an introducing debut role in movies for her.
I love to see all the noms kind of in the supporting categories as well, because those are some of my favorite performances. Like you said, I mean, Leo is the lead. He is still great in this. I don't know if he has the best chance to win Best Actor, unfortunately. I feel like
He didn't try.
true, which I mean, I don't think he cares at this point, which is fair, but I feel like I kind of wanted to give it to him a month ago, but now at this point, it's like I don't even know if he wants it.
I think he could have won it if he had gone out there and
Yeah,
done the campaign thing and put his full effort in. But he was out doing a lot of interviews, more than he ever really has around the release of the film, really just to get people to go see this movie, trying to get it out there and to uplift the rest of the cast, support Paul Thomas Anderson, support Tiana Taylor, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, like all these other people. I don't think in any of his press it was really about him trying to get an award. And you've seen, in the last couple of months, the way that it's become clear he's not going to win this thing, I don't think.
but he's still all around great. And I think specifically like his chemistry with the 2 female leads of Chase Infinity and Tiana Taylor is superb, to say the least. I am surprised that Chase Infinity didn't get nommed, although it's a stacked kind of category for Best Actress. Obviously, that's going to be every year though. And then Tiana Taylor obviously is not in the bulk of the movie, but the part that she is in, she's just phenomenal. And she has that lasting impact on the movie, even though she's not in it that long.
It's her absence that almost has a greater effect. She's this figure that looms large over the last 2/3 of the film that she's not in, because she's so electric in the beginning.
Yeah, like the whole plot still, in the second and third acts, it revolves around, the consequences to her actions. So even though she's not there, that impact is still super strong. I think I would give for sure her the Academy Award for this year. That may just be my opinion, but I think that's a shoo-in, almost in my eyes. And then, yeah, on the other side, supporting actor wise, I think Benicio is just as phenomenal in limited screen time, really adding this really fun kind of comedic element, just bouncing off of Leo. Obviously, with Leo, more in an intense situation, and Benicio just his guy. And then, of course, the second scene too, where of course, he has the iconic line, just a few beers.
Few
This
small
movie,
beers.
it's quotable. It looks beautiful. I mean, talking about one of the most memorable scenes of the year, I think, is obviously just the climactic car chase, which gets talked about a ton, but it is legitimately one of the coolest chase scenes I've ever seen. I've never really, I feel like, seen something specifically like that, which is dope and a great, again, just great direction. But yeah, on a technical level, I think it might have the edge over Sinners, honestly.
Not only is it a two-horse race, but both these movies deal with similar-ish topics and are definitely in conversation with one another. One Battle After Another is a movie that definitely feels very relevant to today and to America. Sinners is a truly American story about the history. Both of these are dealing with racial politics. Obviously, One Battle After Another is a movie that has been a little bit critiqued for its portrayal of Black women, or the fact that it comes from Paul Thomas Anderson, a white filmmaker. And I can recognize those critiques, and I hear them, especially when they're coming from people that actually have that like personal understanding of what it means to be a person of color. This is the movie only Paul Thomas Anderson could make, and it's the movie that he's been trying to make for a really long time. Obviously, the Tiana Taylor character does leave the movie. She just frees herself and gets to go on and live her own life away from all these expectations. And it's a movie about how everyone else in her world and who's around her is constantly kind of just seeing her as one thing and not as the complex individual that she is. Whether it's Leo just kind of attaching himself to her as this like method of revolution, or Sean Penn purely seeing her as this sex symbol that he's like creepily attracted to, or even Chase Infinity, who never even knew her and like sees her as something greater, something mythical, something that's beyond her touch, and she's all of those things at once. It's like, this is a really complex character. She's also not necessarily making the right decision and everything. Like, she's maybe she does the wrong thing at certain points, but I think that is all part of the story that he's trying to tell. And again, from a personal standpoint, Paul Thomas Anderson is married to a biracial woman. He has biracial children. It's a movie about how, white men and white people often co-opt these revolutions and then kind of end up giving it up when it doesn't really matter, as we see with Bob as this old stoner who's really just trying to take care of his daughter because he's a white guy who can survive in this world. He doesn't have to keep fighting. So I think the movie's very self-aware of those critiques and of those problems that some people have, and it's commenting itself on them. It's a very complex movie in that way, I think.
Yeah, and I give a lot of credit to the script for that depth too. 100%. One of the things I did like about it a lot that you mentioned, the fact that kind of Chase Infinity, sees her mother as not who she is, obviously, kind of this hero, which I mean, partly she's a hero, for obvious reasons, but she did rat out her entire crew, which I feel like
And
that's the
she,
thing in this
leaves
movie
her kid
too.
at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, she kind of doesn't have a choice at that point, but she
She
100%,
could have taken her with.
ditches the family, yeah, which is pretty tough. I do think Chase Infinity is awesome in this movie. Shout out to her as well for being an Indiana native, which is really fun. I do wish that she got the nom, if I'm being completely honest, but and more so too because of the third act is 100% circled around her, and she deals with a ton of action at the end, which I think is very well directed. There's that other scene as well before the car chase where she escapes, from the bounty hunters or whatever, and that one guy helps her escape. That I think that's one of the most tense scenes in the movie as well. Even at the end of it, where she's sitting in the car and it won't start 'cause she doesn't have the key for it, and she has to go back
Go
in,
back.
and everyone's just laying dead. I think that's one of the most intense scenes in the movie, and I mean half the movie has Sean Penn in it, and it's just disgustingly intense. So yeah, we forgot to mention him, and obviously the supporting nom. I think he could have a chance at the Oscar. I mean, it probably is one of the best performances of the year.
If he shows up.
Yeah, if he shows up, I just want him. I want to see him smoking. I think that's just really funny that he does not care.
Things
But
indoors,
yeah,
man.
I don't know if I'd give it to him, but it's definitely one of the best performances of the year. I don't think there's any debate about that.
him and Benicio are kind of two ends of a spectrum where it's like Benicio's so damn lovable and he's so damn hateable, but those are both just incredible performances embodying those two aspects. Sean Penn, absolutely vile. The scene when at the end he's captured Chase Infinity's character and he's doing the paternity test is just like really intense filmmaking. What the result's going to be, obviously, you kind of deep down know, I think, from the very beginning of the movie what the result's going to be. I love the design elements of that. I think the paternity test is cool. There's like the trust device, which obviously plays a pivotal role in the score as well. But even just that as like a physical manifestation of like revolutionary spy gear, I think that's really fun. This movie is contemporary. It's set in the now. It feels very real in reality, but then there's also these kind of like fun little flourishes of stuff that's like, well, maybe this is a little bit set in the future, or maybe this is weirdly out of time, you know?
Doesn't have to commit to being, this is the story of today, or, I feel like it does a great job of presenting this story and not really telling you what to think about it. I think another scene, especially on a rewatch for me, that stood out was when, Sean Penn is and the whole crew is in riot gear and stuff. And there's a peaceful protest going on because obviously they did this big hit on the city, against immigrants and stuff, which again, obviously very relevant. But the thing that stood out this time on the rewatch was I didn't even catch, it's their guys who are starting kind of the unpeaceful protest and throwing a bottle of a Molotov cocktail or whatever. So just little details like that too of not like shoving that in your face. I feel like just kind of rolling the scene, and if you catch it, you catch it. But yeah, very timely, and I think PTA is really a master altogether, and he doesn't do a lot of movies kind of in the modern age. So I think a little bit different from him, maybe out of his comfort level, but yeah, I mean, visually, I think it just allowed him to be even more creative in a sense. So I think it's one of his best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that scene, the immigration camps in the beginning that they're trying to break the people out of. All of it is very relevant to the current state of politics. Even like the way Sean Penn is styled and like the garb he's wearing, he just looks like a fucking ICE agent. He's like that Greg Bavino guy who's walking around dressed like a fucking Nazi. And there's also, that patheticness to him as a person and as a character. And then in the end, it's kind of tragic what happens to him. You don't really feel that bad for him, but he's so bought into this cult of the Christmas adventurers. And then what do they do the second they don't need him? They fucking kill him. The scenes of him getting his new office, pull those pictures and memes up every time Trump fires one of his advisors. Sorry, Christy Nome, you've got a new promotion headed somewhere. Like this is all very relevant stuff.
Yeah, I will say with this character too, like at least that's a pretty successful conclusion. You are satisfied. I feel like with that
Yeah.
scene, just having to watch him the entire movie, I feel like it was difficult for me at least. Just not something I feel like I enjoyed altogether. You kind of see he doesn't even really belong with the Christmas Adventures, I guess. He only wants to be with them just because like I feel like no one else will accept him, and he kind of wants to just
Well,
be
why
in
do
with
people
people.
turn to fascism, Kody?
Which is like it's because obviously him and Tiana Taylor have a relationship, which would be very against the Christmas Adventurers. But I just think that's an interesting character moment, just to show you how big of a scumbag this guy is. Of he has no limits. Obviously you see that too with Chase Infinity. If it lines up, we've got a problem, and he takes action to eliminate her basically. So just really hateable, but I guess that's definitely what makes him a good character.
Yeah, and I mean all the Christmas adventure stuff I really like because it's the most ridiculous version of what's a secret club of white supremacists that are running our country. Well, actually, this probably isn't that far off from whatever secret clubs or whatever meetings JD Vance is going to on the weekends and fucking 20 Project 2026 and all that bullshit. It's kind of just enough satirical and funny enough where you can be like, well, if you think this is a critique of yourself, if you think this is an anti-conservative movie, then really you're just calling yourself even more silly. But the fucking Proud Boys, that's a dumb name too. Yeah, I don't know.
Not great either, but yeah, that is the thing as well. Like, it could definitely be based on a lot more true events than one would think as well. Obviously, just it does feel so realistic, especially in our today's age, which is just insane. But overall, even though it has super strong themes, like I think it still does have a lot of fun. Even the scenes with Leo and kind of heckling her friends when they come pick her up from the dance and stuff. Like he adds a lot of comedic elements that 100% like this is an intense movie, especially like from the second act on. But I think they do a great job of establishing these characters. So when the action is going down, we do care about them as well. It is very well rounded. Like you said, maybe it looks a little bit long on paper, but the first half hour is just so damn good with Tiana Taylor. It's basically just a 2 hour movie, kind of with a dope prologue. So I really do love its structure.
Leo's funny, whether it's him on the phone trying to get the password right with the guy, or he's talking to the teacher about the Grand Wizard Benjamin Franklin.
I love that scene.
It's an interesting move, late career schleppy Leo. I don't know if we'll ever see him again as, Jack in Titanic or that kind of clean cut, pure heartthrob. He plays this era of himself very well. And yeah, give one battle after another best picture. Why not? And great needle drops too. Dirty Work, American Girl. Welcome back to Cap. I'm Korbin.
And I'm Kody.
And today we're going to tell you why Sinners should win Best Picture in 15 minutes or less. It's the 10th and final part in our 10-part series where we break down each of the Best Picture nominees at the 98th Academy Awards. Today, we're only talking about what we love about the movie, no outside drama, no negatives. We're not going to be posting variety articles about how this movie needs to make this much money in order to be profitable. Purely the great stuff. What makes this movie awesome? It broke the record for Oscar nominations with 16 total, along with picture. It's got director, actor, supporting actress, original screenplay, casting, cinematography, editing, costume design, production design, makeup and hairstyling, score, sound, best original song, and VFX.
Oh my. It's a lot of noms. It is the record, which is awesome. And yeah, we saved the best for last. Number 10 of the series here. Shout out if you've watched all the way through with us. And yeah, I mean, I think for us, this has a lot of arguments for the best movie of the year. Clearly it did for the Academy as well. Kind of crazy that I mean it basically swept all the technicals along with the costumes and with the acting too. I mean, I think they even missed supporting actor nom that they could have easily gotten.
Well, they got supporting actor, but they missed in lead actress. That was the only thing it didn't really. That was like the one
true
because you got Delroy Lindo.
Yeah, I was saying Miles Caton though too. Like didn't even get nommed.
True, right? They could have gotten another one. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
but yeah, I think like you said, actually the only main one they did miss is Best Actress, pretty much, right? What did it not get nominated for other than that? Anything?
I mean, things that it can't be nominated for: animated feature, international film, adapted screenplay. Sinners too, maybe.
Should have gotten.
But it literally everything it was eligible for, other than Best Actress, it was awesome. Nominated in.
So, and it's deserved.
And really, like there wasn't a lead actress. I guess you could argue.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld, but really she would probably just be in supporting as well.
Yeah, I think her screen time just couldn't wield a nomination like that, although she is great.
A lot of incredible female characters in this movie.
Yeah.
And an incredible cast. You've got, of course, Wumi Masaku, who does get the actual nomination. Jamie Lawson, who's incredible, her singing performance, along with Miles Caton. I think we should probably start with the music. Obviously, it gets score, it gets best original song. The music is literally integral to the story. It's kind of the genre blending of vampirism against the backdrop of blues history through the 20th century and in the way that it was proliferated and changed and stolen by white people and profited upon white people. You ever watch the movie Elvis? How that guy get famous, right? He's white. And but this movie uses fucking genre and vampirism to commentate on these much greater ideas. And it's also just like a good genre movie. It's sexy. It's got incredible costumes and awesome location. It's shot incredibly with this giant IMAX film, full 70 millimeter, 4:3 aspect ratio and scenes. Ryan Coogler was doing his sit down Kodak. Here's all the different formats you can see this movie in, and it got people out to the fucking theater, and it became a true cultural moment. For that reason alone, like the movie of the year.
I echo that completely. I do think as well, just its success, at the box office, like you said, it is a cultural, I feel like, impact movie of 2025. That is kind of the movie that everyone remembers going to see in theaters from this year. The music alone, I mean, like you were saying, just absolutely amazing, beautiful costuming with the period piece and the cinematography hits as well. Once we get into that barn, kind of, I feel like that music scene specifically there just takes this movie to a different level. I think maybe the setup, it's not my favorite part of the movie, but once we hit that scene on, it's kind of like there's not a bad scene in the movie, I don't think. I wanted to shout out Jack O'Connell pretty quickly off the bat too. I think he's a fun villain. Adds to the iconicness.
Also, good song from him as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean,
Rocky Road to Dublin.
it's a banger. But yeah, I mean, just everything all together with this movie. I don't know if you can find too many flaws, and I think the Academy obviously shows that. But I do think, on a technical level, it is beautiful. Just the cinematography, specific shots that I love. Even with the epilogue of the brothers looking at the sunset for the last time, which is such a dope shot to save to the very end as well. But also the kind of climactic shot too of Jack O'Connell, bursting into flames, and Caton and Michael B in the background, kind of reacting. I don't know why, but that's one of my favorite shots of the year too. So I don't see any flaws, kind of in this movie in general, really.
Yeah, it's incredibly well written, incredibly shot, designed. Michael B. Jordan at the center of it, playing two characters. I think we've both talked about how on the first watch it's like, okay, this is pretty impressive, but when you really like start to pay attention to the differences and the way he kind of walks and the confidence he has as each of these characters, and you're able to track them from beginning to end, it is like a really impressive work. And the fact that they were shooting this on film and doing those visual effects and getting that to all look really incredible, have them literally hand each other cigarettes. I think it's perfectly done. And it's like, you didn't need to do twins. You could have just cast two actors to play brothers, but you got Michael B. Jordan. Why not have him play two roles?
I feel like you have to double down if you have Michael B. Jordan, but yeah, you said it there too. On a rewatch, I do think the two characters are kind of a lot more noticeably different. One being, the more serious kind of businessman type, and then the other, kind of the happier go lucky. I think his relationship with Miles Caton is great. And Smokestack, I think just both of them are iconic characters,
Great
and
names too.
yeah, true. I mean, I love their backstory too, of kind of they were running with Capone in Chicago, and
Served in
um,
World War One, went up to Chicago. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's a fun backstory, and then them coming in to town immediately and like wanting to open that night just shows kind of like the ambition and just who they are as people. So I think their setup was great. And then I think too, like him balancing two love interests and making both of them very effective
Yeah,
relationships.
he has chemistry with both of Hailey Steinfeld and Wumi
Yeah,
Masako.
I think like the emotional climax of the movie is kind of him, reuniting with Wunmi, and obviously their child who had passed away. And then the other one kind of gets to live forever. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds for Michael B. Jordan. But like you said too, the fact that it is seamlessly done, like it's not even something you think about after the movie is like, wow, there's two Michael B. Jordans there. Like they actually had to do a crap ton of filmmaking to make it look really good. But I feel like it's an afterthought in this movie just because it is so seamless.
I love also the little bits of lore and world building they do give us. The Choctaw Indian Native American characters who are basically the vampire hunters. We don't really get to see a lot of them, but it's like, fuck, make a whole movie just about those guys. I'd love to see what their deal is. And obviously there's like this whole history of them hunting down these vampires. Jack O'Connell has his own history, and the reason he's trying to go after Miles Caton is because he wants to reconnect with his ancestors. There's the power of music in this movie and how it is used as this like magic portal time traveling device, which I think is just all really cool and very unique. It's beyond just the simple, there's blood sucking guys that don't want to be in the sunlight. Like there's a bunch of different layers of the hoodoo stuff with Annie, and it just makes me not want a sequel, but I want to be in this world more.
I think we're getting a sequel, aren't we? I'm pretty sure.
Probably, the later years.
I mean, with such a hit like this, I feel like you have to do another, kind of no questions asked. But yeah,
Stacking Mary in the 70s.
I mean, dude, like you set them up to live forever as well. Like this could be the new franchise. You can make 10 of these pretty easily, I think. And that is because the vampire kind of fantasy elements like you were talking about, I think are done very, very well. Even the classic lore of having to invite them in, I think is, done creatively, and specifically having Jack O'Connell at the helm, kind of this band, just his pure charisma alone. And I think he's obviously a really great actor and great casting for sure. Like, it deserves the casting nomination here as well, kind of based off the criteria of deep cast. Everyone is pretty much perfect. Even the Chinese couple, like, I think they're very effective in super small screen time. I love both of their casting.
Omar Benson Miller plays Cornbread as well. We haven't shouted
I
out
love
Cornbread,
Cornbread,
just a
yeah.
fun comic relief character, and then obviously,
And
rest in peace.
Delroy Lindo we don't talk about enough, I think,
True.
too.
Playing the fucking harmonica, looking cool as hell. One of the greats.
Yeah, I think that was super cool to see him nominated. I think that was maybe the biggest not surprise nomination from the movie, but I think well deserved. He does a great job too of having some comedic elements, specifically when there's kind of more intense moments as well.
Well, and I even love like his intro when he's like, "Hey man, like this is my spot. Like, don't even
Yeah,
you gotta watch yourself." Like he's kind of a hard ass, but Miles Caton's character, Sammy's character's father, doesn't want him to play music, so he needs somebody in his life that's this is a new force. Smoke and Stacker encouraging him. Now he meets this Del Lindo guy who plays music. Everybody's encouraging him to follow his dreams and to play this music because he's got a real talent, which is fun.
and that's what makes Miles Caton's character just one of the best in the movie, I think. That relationship with his dad, I think, is such a great setup for him. But obviously, I mean, his pure talent um, is the big standout. And kind of once he figures out what he wants to do with his life, I love kind of the conclusion with his character as well. Of I feel like the typical thing in a movie like this would be like, oh, him to give up music forever and never
But
talk
no,
about
he becomes
vampires
fucking
again.
Buddy Guy, dude. He becomes a
Becomes a
legend.
legend. Yeah, which I love that kind of conclusion for his character. So I just love stuff like that where the movie allows them to choose kind of what they want to do for themselves instead of just doing kind of what you're expected to.
Really like the way this is a movie very much about race. You have the Chinese characters, Grace and Bo Chow, who are the shopkeepers. There's a real rich history in the Mississippi River Delta area of these stores being owned by Chinese people, immigrants that have come in and opened these shops, and they would serve to the black communities and to the white communities. And you see that there's a store on both sides of the street that they're segregated. And then it also becomes a commentary of who can be white. Irish people at different points in history have been determined to be white or not white. The Asian people, again, in this movie are able to fit in to the communities. She very quickly gives up the rest of the people in the juke joint. She instantly turns on them just to get back with her husbands. That tells the vampires to come in. So there's kind of the fact that maybe when the going gets tough, sometimes it's easier to turn against each other rather than to like stand up and support each other, especially when you have these like cultural differences. So like all of those ideas I think are really interesting. And then like I talked about with Jack O'Connell is representing this Irish character. Fucking Ryan Coogler, he's a guy. He's got Ryan. That's an Irish name. Like there's this this history and this there's a similarities in the struggle, but awfully great differences. He's just trying to get them to assimilate, to join their side, to give up their culture, to become part of the hive mind. Is terrible, but not like as on the surface evil as you might expect, which I think is really interesting as well. Like he's a bad character, but he's not. He doesn't really want to like kill these people, and he doesn't hate them. He's not a racist. He's just he wants them to all be his fellow vampires.
He's just a
He's like
lover of vampires, yeah.
I think they're very similar to like the Get Out white people.
Yeah, it's true, I guess. But yeah, I want to say too, I mean, touching on themes of race too, like that's a thing with Haley Steinfeld's character as well that I thought they did really, really well. Especially with the one line with one me
as
where
she's a passing biracial woman. Yeah.
yeah, and I like that scene where Jack O'Connor's like, hey, she's let in, why can't I? And he's like, she's family. I just thought that was really cool of establishing her, interconnectivity with the group already. And also too, yeah, I don't know why the one lady invited them in. Really, I guess I'm like, kind of confused on that. Well, I guess they were going after her daughter. I think was
Well, and
important.
her husband was out there. He had been turned into a vampire, and they were like, "Well, we're gonna go eat your
But also
daughter."
like the timing of sunrise, I feel like they have to have some sort of knowing of when that's going to happen just from experience. And it kind of just happens really quickly on them, and I don't know what their plan was. But also, like, if they just stayed in there for, like another hour, they were probably fine. So yeah, probably not a great move, but definitely made a better, third act with kind of, it feels like a Infinity War moment, with Star Lord. We gotta
Well, and
we
then
gotta
yeah,
have
there's like a
something
couple
bad
like
happen.
random people that are still there that you're like, where the fuck did they come from? They haven't been in any of these scenes. It listen, that's my one critique of the movie is literally that
But
action
it
set
makes
piece.
it, yeah, but it makes it a great action set piece. So like,
Sure.
if there's a little bit of plot, who cares really? Somebody's gonna crack under pressure, like you were saying. It's not like this crazy thing. But I think the script altogether actually is really very strong, especially like I was saying with the bookend that they do. Really funny just to see like Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld like roll up in modern clothes and stuff. I don't know. I just love the aesthetic of the ending.
Let's give it best picture, Cody. Let's make it happen.
It's gonna happen.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.